Live on Chew. Perfect. And as so long as we don't have any sound issues, reverb, of course. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, if I try to adjust the reverb, here's what's going to happen. It's going to do that weird sound thing that it does. It's going to do that weird sound thing that it does. Here's what I need all of you to do. I need every last one of you to turn your volume down for a split second. Turn your volume way down, because when I do this adjustment, it's going to screw with your sound. Turn your volume down. Everyone turn it down. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What?
Okay. The platitudes channel. And I'm going to cut it off. And open it back up. All right, so that should have done something. You should be able to turn it back up now. It should be good now. Welcome back in, YouTubers. We should be good now.
Your chat is so well behaved. Mine is feral.
Yeah, so far. So far. Give them time. Give them time. They will get to acting up. All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back. All righty, let's reinstate the goal of this show. We already know about the 77 million people who voted for Donald Trump in the 2024 elections, but we need to focus on the larger margins, which is going to be the 90 million who did not. The 90 million people who thought that it would be a waste of time, who thought that if they tried, their votes wouldn't be heard. And that is the purpose of this live today. We are going to try to reach out to those individuals and get them to understand the significance and importance of their vote, either individually or collectively. And joining me today is going to be the wonderful, fantastic, and absolutely fucking handsome Facts Still Matter. How you doing, bud?
I am good, my friend. Thanks for having me. You know how important this topic is to me, so I'm glad we're doing it.
6,000%, 6,000%. But in order for us to get these conversations going, we're going to need you guys to do your part as well. So with this discussion, is there going to be a lot less, you guys know what to expect when you guys come in here. So make sure that we are doing all the things with the engagement to get us boosted out in the FYP, starting off with sending your daily heart me's. Let's knock out the one set gift goals to get us boosted out as well. Please make sure you share out the live with your friends and family. Also repost and add it to your story. And from there, we should be Gucci. So if you are a non-voter, whether you just chose to stop voting or you, for 20, 30, 40 something years of your life, you don't intend to, we want to know the reasons why. And that's the purpose of this discussion. We want to know exactly what's stalling you out. Because quite frankly, it is easy for me to address this conversation from the perspective of look at the world around us. But oftentimes when we have those discussions, it falls back into, well, this was going to happen regardless. Or what could my vote do to stop this if ultimately this party didn't have a majority, or if this group was controlled by this interest? And that is all a point of voting as well. One of the amazing things I've been finding out when you look at the committee, specifically the House Committee in Congress, is that there's a lot of bills for your everyday issues, things that we discuss on a daily basis, that actually address some of those issues, such as stopping our recognition. U-turn. No, I'm blanking. Citizens United, a monumental failure on behalf of the United States that regarded corporations as people, and now we have lobbyists to hell in our government. We cannot trust many of our politicians to do the right thing because it'll impact their wallet. If we were able to get money out of, if not significantly reduce, those interests, we can have a more effective Congress. If we were able to handle some of the individuals via APAC funding specifically, we can get a proper response in relation to Gaza, so on and so forth. But the big thing that I want to talk about specifically is ranked choice voting, which is going to also go into abolishing the Electoral College. If we want accurate representation of the American people, not fueled by all these different interests, we have to have a serious conversation about getting rid of the Electoral College. And some of those bills have already came out in the committee and never got as far as the House. So facts, actually, I've been presenting an idea, because a lot of people who've been wanting AOC to run for president in 2028. I actually would prefer her to run for, to stay in the House and become the new House Majority Speaker. Because I think if she was that person, she would be able to get a lot of the legislation hung up in the committee to the actual floor to vote on in the House and then the Senate. And I wanted to get your position on that.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting point. I would rather see her primary Chuck Schumer and run for the Senate seat out of New York. But either way, she needs to be in leadership. Either way.
I don't disagree. I do not disagree at all. She absolutely needs a bigger position. They've basically been tossing her around anyway as the front runner for the more progressive leaning base of Democrats. So why not? Honestly. And
one of the things that the speaker does that people don't talk about enough, I know you know this, is fundraising. I don't know how effective she is fundraising. That is something there's almost like a checklist for the person to be the speaker. It's not just the person who's obviously the most popular, I'm using air quotes, but it's about fundraising. Before I go to that, I don't know if you heard what happened in Hawaii. Have you heard what happened in Hawaii regarding Citizens United?
No, I did not.
Well, they're the first state in the nation to pass a bill targeting Citizens United, which their legislature said, we're not going to allow corporations to act as individuals. Precedent setting potentially. Yeah, exactly.
Absolute W, so why? But it looks like we do have our first guest. I want to quickly go over some of the topics that we'll be addressing with this individual, and for others who may want to quest up or call in the number on screen. Those of you on the YouTube side, that number is 737-295-5321. But the ones that I have here, and I didn't get to put up on the screen, is going to be every vote matters, and I firmly believe that. I don't care if you're in a predominantly red area, if you're blue, if you're predominantly blue area and you're red. Every single vote counts. Action versus complaining. I don't think it serves us any well to sit here and talk about all the things wrong with the world when we have the ability to go to a poll and change that collectively. One bird, different wings. It's a slight revision of two wings of the same bird. I think that is a cop-out for the drastic differences between both parties. While they both may uphold some of the same things, they still have two drastically different ideas for America. Couch privilege, and simply put, if you have the ability to sit out elections and not be affected by it as a whole, or at least as they allege, then you simply have privilege. You have privilege, and you're privileged enough to do so versus other groups of people that turn out faithfully every single election, specifically black women. And then finally, midterms 2026, where we can just talk about all the things surrounding that. So if you are a non-voter, a person who's hesitant in participating in our elections, you may request up in the box. You are the demographic of people we'd like to have a conversation with and figure out why you will not be turning out, or hopefully we can get you to turn out in the 2026 elections. And if you're on the YouTube side, you can call the number on screen, 737-295-5321. Stop asking. Stop asking what, sir? Stop asking what?
I think you mentioned this in your intro to Hector. That's your cousin Hector. It's also people who, like you said, who believe in I don't vote because I think it's the two wings of the same bird, two sides of the same coin. So that's also a demographic of people that may not necessarily admit that they're just apathetic when it comes to their vote. So those groups of people out there as well, if you really feel like your vote doesn't count, not just not participating, and your reasoning is because you think it's both parties are the same, we'd love to talk to you.
6,000%. 6,000%. I think the argument of the same bird is correct. Of course, it's the bird of our government. It's a bird of our political process. But then they can lean this way and can they lean the other way. And those leanings are super important. And some of those things, let's be real, especially if we're talking about the left and the party of trying to do away with harm and get off of just the harm reduction vote, which is still important. There's only so much we can do with an entire opposing side who thinks differently because they still have to be represented. And that's when it falls back to marketing. I do think Democrats have a monumental marketing problem. I do think they need to do an infinitely better job at presenting certain policies in a digestible way. But at the same time, there's always going to be people who are never going to get universal health care. They're never going to get what we want for college education. They're never going to get any of these things. And that's just a matter of ensuring that we also relate to those people to the best of our ability. How that impact is important. But yeah, it's very much the same bird, but they're two vastly different agendas. And we've seen the examples of that in this past election for the last 2 years. Shit's not looking great.
One of the things I was talking about today was, it's actually somebody mentioned this yesterday as we were discussing, harm reduction, as we often do. Maybe it's not yourself you think about when you go to vote. Maybe it's someone else that you know. Maybe we can try to bring back a little bit of empathy and remind folks that you're voting for your neighbor's children who may be disabled, or you're voting for the elderly who've seen their SNAP benefits cut, or you're voting for a disabled vet, or you're voting for any member of a marginalized community. Maybe that is a way to potentially change that narrative. That would be Ms. Shante who said that, by the way.
I've heard a few people say at this point, 6,000%. 6,000%. I think we have a guest. Let's find out. Guys, make sure you continue to double tap the screen. Let's get the likes up to 100K as soon as possible. Engage with all the engagement. Ross42, are you there?
Drafted player to University of Minnesota. I had a Dave Winfield.
Ross, you have a very loud background noise.
God bless you.
If there's a way that you can turn that down, and let me know if you meant to request up in the box, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much, Erica, for the Shell of a Vault gift. I appreciate you. WCU, Erica. WCU. Ross, I'm going to send you an invitation to unmute. You may accept it. I don't think Ross meant to come up.
Everybody tap that screen. Tap that beautiful man's forehead. Let's go. Get the live out there. Like, post, share, repost, comment. Thank you.
It's a really big target, so you can't miss it. Alrighty then. I wanted to go over another story. There's a ton I did not get to go over during the Fun and Fact show, to be fair. But I want to talk about it here. For one, this is a serious threat. This is actually, honestly, a bigger story that I should have covered at the beginning of the stream. And let me pull it up here. So on the 11th, the White House put this new guideline or, I guess, strategic plan towards counterterrorism. And you would not believe some of the words in this freaking document. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it up for you so you guys can read it along with me. But this is what Donald Trump believes is one of our biggest threats in the United States.
God bless you.
Thank you, Trailer Swift, for the Canyon Bighorn. I appreciate you. In the meantime, between time, while I am reading this, God damn it, I always forget to lock that one. If you are a non-voter, we would like to speak to you on exactly what is causing you to leave or sit out some of the most important elections of our lifetime. We want to see if we can have legitimate discussion on the ways to motivate you to vote or your reasons why you never will. We want to hear from all of you, so make sure that you request up in the box. You are the demographic of people we want to speak to, or you may call the number on screen on the YouTube side, 737-295-5321. But I think this right here is a good reason as any to understand its importance. And let me read it for you. So this, once again, was posted on the 11th on the White House website, United States Counterterrorism Strategy for 2026. Here's all the tables. And I really want to skip over a lot of this crap, but we're going to read it in full, and it's super important that we do. Mods, please keep a lookout in the request box. When I returned to the White House on January 20th, 2025, and I apologize in advance for all the rhetoric, 4 years of weakness, failure, surrender, and humiliation under the last administration came to an end. Today, our nation is strong, our borders are secure, and the United States is respected all over the world. We are once again putting America first. Sure, buddy. As part of my commitment to defending America from all enemies, foreign and domestic, we are once again working to crush the threat of terrorism. Within 43 days, we apprehended the terrorist mastermind of the attack on Abbey Gate in Afghanistan that left 13 American service members dead. In just 1 year, we brought back 106 American hostages from captivity abroad without paying a single dollar to their captors. We designated key chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood as the terrorist groups they have always been. I mean, we've been doing that. We mobilized the Department of Homeland Security to remove illegal alien criminals and jihadist sympathizers from our country. They have yet to substantiate that last part. We ended the war in Gaza. This is news to me, guys. I had no idea that they weren't blowing each other up.
I didn't get that memo.
Yeah. Little lost there. Little lost. Secured the release of all remaining hostages. No, you didn't. And began the process of ensuring Gaza can no longer serve as a haven for terrorism and extremism by bringing security and prosperity to the reign through the Board of Peace. Oh. Operation Midnight Hammer and Operation Epic Fury have dealt devastating blows to the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, the sinister regime in Iran, to ensure they can never have a nuclear weapon. Yeah, sure, buddy. At the same time, my administration has put an unprecedented focus on dismantling threats to the American homeland in our hemisphere. We are no longer permitting the cartels and gangs who have poisoned millions of Americans to freely operate in our region or smuggle their substances, guns, or trafficked women and children into our country. I love how in reading Donald Trump's presidential forward, the app gave me a share responsibly on live flag. I love how reading Donald Trump's words on all the things he did made TikTok, which is American-based now, say, watch the words, buddy, you're lying. Absolutely diabolical. Millions of Americans freely operate in our region or smuggle their substances, guns, or traffic women and children into our country. Last year, I rightfully designated the deadly cartels as terrorist organizations and began using the strength and power of the U.S. military to stop and destroy their operations, aka blow up fishermen boats. Our armed forces also demonstrated their incredible power and skill by capturing the narco-terrorist outlaw Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro, bringing him to face American justice. We will not let cartels, jihadists, or the governments who support them plot against our citizens with impunity. Terrorists of any kind will not be allowed to find safe harbor here at home or attack us from abroad. Our new U.S. counterterrorism strategy is a return to common sense and peace through strength. As I said, after our first successful counterterrorism mission, just days after I was sworn back into office, if you hurt Americans or are planning to hurt Americans, we will find you and we will kill you.
Peace and love, Hector. Peace and love.
Peace and love. W's in the chat to Olive for the $3 Venmo. All she said was egg. Thank you, egg. I appreciate you. W's in the chat to you. Guys, best way to support the platform is going to be the links in the bio if you so choose. Please make sure we take care of facts that still matter while he's here. Let's get his coins above 1,000, and please make sure you hit up his links as well. If you're over on the tube side, you may send a super chat or a super sticker. There's another section that I really want to go over. Here we go. The threat. And this is going to be found on page 5 of this document. Once again, I will post this in the Discord for the rest of you to read. Here's the threat section. We must protect our country from invasion, not just from unchecked migration, but from cross-border threats such as terrorism, substances, espionage, and human trafficking. Under the leadership of President Trump, America is again the world's most powerful nation, with the largest economy in history, the most advanced technologies, and the bravest and most skilled warfighters the world has ever seen. Excuse me. This newfound strength has been amply... I don't give a fuck about reading this. Hold on. But the terrorist threat has changed. We face new categories and combinations of violent actors that make the established ways of doing counterterrorism insufficient or obsolete. We face a multiplicity of deadly threats from terror groups and non-state actors, often secretly supported by governments who wish to undermine us. Currently, we face 3 major types of terrorist groups, and these are the top 3 that is referenced. Narco-terrorists and transnational gangs, legacy Islamist terrorists, and violent left-wing extremists, including anarchists and anti-fascist.
Uh-oh. I better take my sign down.
Violent left-wing extremists. We've already went over the fact that the Trump administration does not know how to define left-wing or left-wing extremism because they still continue to tout around the lie that the left wing is responsible for the majority of political violence in the United States, which is objectively false. Not only did the White House confirm this themselves in reports that the Trump administration took down mid last year, but we have many independent news reports that show the same. The truth is, and this one I can actually prove, left-wing violence has been on the rise. Specifically from 2024 up, there has been an uptick in left-wing violence. In fact, it's actually common for this to happen. Under a Republican administration, you tend to see more left-wing radicals come out. Under a Democratic administration, you tend to see more right-wings. But you know who stays consistent no matter what party's in power? Republicans. Mm-hmm. And this was confirmed specifically by the Center for Strategic International Studies. Let me put that up here. Left-wing terrorism and political violence in the United States and what the data tells us. I'm going to kind of fast track to some of this, but the big thing I want you guys to take out of it is the fact that while we are on an uptick because we're responding to fascism, they still have been consistently nuts. Our analysis of terrorism trends in the United States shows that, indeed, left-wing violence has risen in the last 10 years, particularly since President Donald Trump's rise to political prominence in 2016. Although it has risen from very low levels and remains much lower than historical levels of violence carried out by right-wing and jihadist attackers. More contentious politics in the United States and the expansion of the Make America Great Again movement appear to have re-energized violent left-wing extremists. The left-wing movement as a whole has not returned to its violent heights of the 1960s and 70s, but the number of terrorist incidents... Thank you, Palpable, for the swan. But the number of terrorist incidents involving left-wing extremists so far this year puts 2025 on pace to be the left's most violent year in more than 3 decades. Most violent does not mean it's competing. Moreover, 2025 marks the first time in more than 30 years that left-wing attacks outnumber those from the far right. Indeed, the increase in left-wing attacks is particularly noticeable because attacks from right-wing perpetrators have sharply declined in 2025. This decline is striking and explanations are speculative. One possibility is that many traditional grievances that violent right-wing extremists have espoused in the past, opposition to abortion, hostility to immigration, and suspicions of government agencies, among others, are now embraced by President Trump and this administration. Similarly, jihadist attacks have declined in frequency since their peak in the 2010s, owing largely to the destruction of major groups like Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, and the subsequent decline in the power of jihadist ideology to inspire attackers. So what we're seeing more and more from people of the left is hopelessness. That's what we're seeing. People are seeing the actions of this administration. People have had their food stamps cut. People who have had their family members and loved ones deported to countries that they didn't even originate from. American citizens being killed in the streets and having their own legal documentation showing their citizenship here challenged. We went over on the last Fun and Fact show, the migrant here American citizen here who speaks very good English, but just with a thick accent, has his documentation, proof of citizenship, his real ID, and he was still detained by ICE 3 times. 3 times because of his accent. And that alone, per the Supreme Court ruling, is used to discriminate against individuals. That maybe is why we're seeing more people get tired, why we're seeing more people on the left get radicalized, because the country is getting objectively more fascist.
On budget cuts through the One Big Beautiful Bill, we're really starting to think about that. We're really starting to see the impact of that now. In fact, just a half an hour ago, got a letter from my daughters for University of Southern California, where she's going to school, reminding us that they made changes to the limits on Parent Plus loans through the federal government. So that's just a reminder how this stuff is impacting everyone. Rural hospitals closing, who are already in mental health deserts. People feel absolutely abandoned, lost, and they're going through extreme measures. Poverty will be on the rise. Petty larceny, breaking and entering. Yeah. Yep. All that winning, Hector. All that winning. Both parties are not the same. Both parties are not the same.
No, not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. And if you want to say that both parties are the same in the fact that they uphold capitalism, sure.
Yeah, agreed.
I would take it as, actually, no, I do have an issue with that too, because I would argue, in my personal opinion, Democrats don't have a choice. I think capitalism supersedes party. I think it's just the foundation of America, and having that resource and having that ability to bully other countries, whether through soft power or aggressive, and in part, even if the likes of Zohar Mamdani, a democratic socialist in New York City, He has to utilize capitalism. The only difference is he's just putting more restrictions on it.
Like when you just balance the budget, for example.
Precisely. Exactly that.
It's interesting because I had someone join my live today, and I've spoken to him before, and I took him through the exercise, and we went point by point by point by point, and I played the sound, and I discussed the budget items and where the cuts came from, and he literally agreed with me every step of the way. And this is a Trump voter, and he lives in Iowa. And I said, so we went through all that. Could you see yourself voting for a Democrat? He's like, no, I don't trust Democrats. I said, well, who's running? He's like, who's running? And I think Rob Sands is his name. He's running for senator. He's like, yeah. He's like, I like Rob Sands. He was the auditor of the state. He's a good man. I said, so you're going to vote for Rob Sands in the midterms? He's like, yeah, I will. I'm like, okay, welcome to being a leftist. Thank you.
It's that simple. It's that simple. Honestly, there's one thing I would never understand is why they have such a resistance, a fear of disdain for left-wing politics, because essentially the majority of Americans, when we do pollings on the issues that most impact us, we support universal health care, we support more firearm restrictions, we support the humanization of migrants even. Majority of Americans agree on those things when we look at the polls. But for some reason, when we get into the party issues, people have this just utter disdain for the word Democrat, this utter disdain for the word left wing. And it doesn't seem to make any sense. We're asking for equitable taxes, equitable tax reform, to where you, who doesn't make much compared to a literal billionaire, would be required via percentage to pay less taxes. And that person who is able to enrich their businesses off the backs of our labor would have to contribute to society in the same way we've contributed to their success. I think nothing can be more fair than that.
I would agree. And I don't think it's just the conditioning of their opposition to Democrats. I think they've been conditioned to think it's socialism, communism, radical leftists, even though in most cases they don't understand what that means. And it's funny because you joined my live a few weeks back when I had that prompt behind my head that said, democratic socialism will save America. You're like, Steve, what the fuck are you doing, man? And like, here it is. It's proven out. Like we just saw it in New York City, like in real time. And you're right about marketing and messaging. That's my background. I don't care what you call it. I guess we need to move away from referring to it as democratic socialism. It's hard to get the voters in the margins. I don't care what we call it. I could care less. It's just effective and it works. Trickle up economics. Focus on children, focus on women, focus on healthcare, infrastructure, education. It's a winning argument.
I like trickle-up economics, actually. I really like trickle-up economics.
Go read my Substack.
It respects, one, it pulls from the foundation of why they celebrate the likes of Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, so on and so forth. One of the biggest things that they'll say is someone who started with nothing, some of them didn't, but some of them actually did. Some of them who started with nothing, who created these businesses out of their garages, were able to get to the positions of power that they are now, and that's something to be celebrated, that's something to be credited. So then you put that back on them and said, I believe in that too. I believe an individual from that level should be able to build the business or whatever up to the point of where they can be successful and benefit all of America. And I believe they should also reward the system that enabled them to do that. I think we should create a society that creates more openings, more opportunities, more of an inviting America to get more Elon Musk. I want America to where someone is smart. I'm using Elon Musk just because of his capital. I have my personal beefs with him, okay? To where someone like Elon Musk isn't able to go to college and get the education he needs to start a business because he can't afford it. I want someone, a young Steve Jobs somewhere, to be able to eat so that he can pay attention in class and learn the things he needs to go off to the next level. I think that's a great way to start framing things, which is, do you want to starve the next Elon Musk? Do you want the next Steve Jobs to be homeless? Hell, you can even take it a step further. I would never say these words. Do you want the next Donald Trump to be arrested for just doing a little MJ? Do you want him to be locked up and given an aggressive sentence just because he wanted to partake in the devil's lettuce? I think that's an interesting way to put it.
That's a really good argument. Yeah, it's a really good argument. You want to empower, turn the tide, right? remind folks that sure, we have to participate in capitalism. I have my own theories on that. That's for a different show, but you're right. Like let's create a social safety net so we can inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs, make sure they're fed, make sure they're housed, make sure they're clothed, make sure they have health care so they can be the best versions of themselves. Yeah, there you go. That's trickle up economics. Center around children, women, infrastructure, healthcare, and housing.
6,000%. Please arrest the next Donald Trump. You get what I'm trying to say, though. You guys get what I'm trying to say. I was thinking of the most immediate example specifically to the right, or better yet, a lot of non-voters, even though they may not participate in politics, they still have a certain high regard to these figures. Here in the U.S. in general, we just worship rich people for some reason. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm not saying that to take away from their accomplishments. I'm just saying a lot of that, when you really understand capitalism, came off the backs of the individuals under them. And when they're starving and you're sitting in your 1,600th penthouse, that is when we can lead to more civil unrest. People are growing more and more tired of working their entire lives, their Social Security diminishing, their retirement being threatened, their 401k being challenged, and not being able to afford to live. It's ridiculous.
How many times have you heard somebody come into your space, Hector? This is the empath in me. And they say, I work 70 hours a week. And I'm like, bro, that's not a flex. I don't want you to work 70 hours a week. I don't. I want you to go to your kid's baseball game or a dance recital or a play or whatever. Enjoy your life. It's not a flex.
No, not in the slightest. I'm glad you can work hard, but there's a little saying for that. Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
I firmly believe in that.
Was it Norway or Denmark or one of the Scandinavian countries who I'm not sure if they had passed legislation, but they are now like national 4-day work week. When I was in corporate America before I left, we talked about that oftentimes. And I surveyed my pillar that I had management powers over. And I asked folks, if you had to put in 40 hours a week, would you be willing to do it in 4 10-hour days? And like 95% of the people said, absolutely. Absolutely. To get that extra day off, right? There's again, to your point earlier, there are things that we can do. We have to demand nicer things. And we need to get people in power that are willing to do it. Harm reduction for this election, because we got to keep people alive, and then hold them accountable, elect down ballot progressives, and let's go.
6,000%. 6,000%. One of the worst jobs I ever had one of the best schedules I ever had. I worked 10 hours a day, 4 days a week, and I freaking loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was fantastic, except for the job. The place made me miserable. But
the schedule, I get it. Yeah.
But I want to talk about the extreme importance on how this administration would define attacking counterterrorism, because there's a lot more to this document. I'm going to read this last paragraph, then I'm going to look for the section specifically and how it determined violent left-wing extremists, including anarchists and anti-fascists. The Trump administration doesn't know what the word fascist means. In fact, I would take it a step further. It doesn't seem like the average Trump supporter understands what fascist means, because when we have the conversation about the 14 tenets of fascism and how Donald Trump literally meets every single one of them, people are thrown off. But let me finish this here. We can defeat every single one of these groups, but the threat is significant and pervasive. The borderless America created by the Biden administration was so badly exploited by threat actors that during one 12-month period of the previous administration, more Americans died as a result of the illicit substances flooded into the country by the cartels than all of the U.S. servicemen unalived in combat since 1945. Yeah, about that one. That is an existential threat that President Trump does not tolerate. We seize some of the most pounds of the F substance specifically under the Biden administration, records amount. OD saw a slight uptick from 2020-2021. It's been downward since, in part because of the Biden administration's efforts. So I'm super interested in see where he got that from. But let me go down here. This is the part that I did want to read. In addition to cartels and Islamic terrorist groups, our national CT activities will also prioritize the rapid identification and neutralization of violent secular political groups whose ideology is anti-American, radically pro-transgender, and anarchist. We will use all the tools constitutionally available to us to map them at home, identify their membership, map their ties to international organizations like Antifa, and use law enforcement tools to cripple them operationally before they can maim or kill the innocent. We will do the same with the state sponsors of such groups and those governments undertaking lethal plots on U.S. soil or against Americans anywhere. I'm sorry.
Jesus.
When did being pro-transgender and anti-fascist, how do we associate that with international organizations? What international organization meets... This is concerning. This is very concerning because this administration doesn't know how to define these terms and they throw it on everyone left wing. Hence why we are still having arguments about Luigi being left wing. We're still having arguments about Tyler Robinson being left wing. He was not. He was leaning, but not only was he not transgender, it was just his partner allegedly, which we still haven't fully substantiated. They're using this all as an excuse to then say that they're radical. We still have the base that are saying that transgender people in 2024 and 2025 made up the majority of mass shootings. That is a blatant lie. That was cisgender white men, not transgender people. I have a video on my profile actually debunking that. The 16 point that Senator Eric Schmidt brought up on the House floor a couple months ago. So now if we're using all of these labels to deem you a terrorist and kill you, then the government is going to be weaponized against Americans who disagree with you. Yes, they are making it vague on purpose, Jared. They absolutely are. Absolutely are. Let's see. Finally, and in a special strategic category, we will maintain and increase our national assets to combat and render safe the most dangerous terrorist threat to America, non-state acquisition and use of weapons of mass destruction, especially the terrorist use of nuclear radiological devices. This mission and the attribution of nuclear threats remain presidential priorities as laid out during the first Trump administration in NSPM 35 and NSPM 36. Technological advances since then necessitate a re-examination of the threat and an update to our relevant CT policies, none of which have been substantiated for the entire reason we went to war with Iran. Friendly reminder. We don't have nuclear threats, or better yet, we're so busy talking about Iran's uranium enrichment, no one talks about Israel's secret program. They've been trying to get nuclear weapons for years. They've been pretty successful. It's just not recorded with the IEA or any other international group such as NATO or otherwise.
Do you watch Mehdi Hassan on Zateo at all? Do you know Mehdi?
A bit. I do watch them a bit.
Yeah, he's been going after that hypocrisy for a while now, really saying, obviously we don't want the ENPA, the Nuclear Proliferation Agreement. Why is Israel not transparent? What's their uranium enrichment capabilities? How many bombs and missiles they have? And no one can seem to answer that question. So it's a very good point. I think more of those conversations need to happen. He's a great journalist. I really respect him.
Oh, he's exceptional. He is exceptional. I've been meaning to buy his book, actually. I think it's pretty good. Debbie's in chat to Just Devin for the $2 super chat. You sound like Kamala with her opportunity economy. Yep. Because why would I want opportunities for the low and middle class to thrive as if they don't make up a large portion of the economy? Why would I want that? Why would I want to see people like me and people above me in terms of tax brackets do better in life? That doesn't make any sense. It's interesting that they said that Kamala Harris supported handouts when all of her business proposals incentivize work. They incentivize education. They incentivize people to, quote unquote, lift themselves up by the bootstraps. It's extremely hard and expensive to start a small business in 2026, or at the time, 2024. Maybe a $50,000 tax credit, 10 timing the amount that was initially given under previous tax plans, would have really helped those businesses thrive in the first year. Because they say, the first 6 to 9, you can sometimes not really see much success. the majority of
Yeah.
businesses fail, I think that would have really helped them stand on their own 2 feet if we were able to do so. And they would have paid back into it upon being successful.
Interesting. The last three things you discussed, the cyber, the terrorist threat, the situation with Iran and the lies about the nuclear program, and Kamala's policy regarding the middle class and opportunities for first-time home buyers. Folks that are in the chat that are perhaps unsure, that they feel like the system doesn't work, isn't that a motivation enough to say there are fundamental differences in the two major political parties in our country? And if harm reduction is not your compass at this point, then I don't know why, and we'd like to talk to you.
Very much so. If you are a non-voter who has questions about our political process, if you want to know what is taking place, if you would like to have a conversation about all the reasons why we think it is more than important for you to vote, you may request up in the box. You are the demographic of people I'd like to have a conversation with. And if you're over on the tube side, you may call the number on screen, 737-295-5321. While the right is calling left-wing people violent extremists and anti-fascists, which again is a compliment, and everything else.
Right.
At least for the most part, the Democratic Party, individuals is different, and it's true, but we're not calling MAGA terrorist groups. We're not calling MAGA all these different things that we get called. I firmly believe that MAGA is separate from Republicans, and I think MAGA is a lost cause, 6,000%. 6,000%. But I do think there's a lot of just decent, genuine Republicans who do actually believe in the lowering taxes, small government, basically less bureaucracy. So they're big on cutting red tape and stuff. And I can respect some of those things in specific areas and specific circumstances. But the MAGA movement is the complete opposite of small government. The MAGA movement is the complete opposite of individual rights. The MAGA base is the complete opposite of bureaucracy. So that's really been one of my biggest questions to Republicans who voted for Trump is how could you possibly have seen him as a good candidate when he's the opposite of everything that you stand on? Like value-wise, he is not really a Republican, or at least not a good one.
Can I challenge that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I think the lie of the Republican Party being fiscally responsible, small government, has been told to the American public since Reagan. So I don't think the Republican Party is about small government. I don't think they're about fiscal responsibility, and they haven't been for 50 years.
Oh,
But MAGA is you're right, MAGA is an offshoot, but I think the lie has been the conservatives in general, not non-MAGA, just general Republican economic policy doesn't create jobs, drives up the debt, leads us to recession. That's been that way for 50 years at a minimum. Right.
6,000%. I think they tout around something, but in terms of practice, in terms of last few presidents, we've seen something vastly different. I was doing some research on the Iran-Contra conflict, where we were selling weapons to Iran to fight left-wing people in the Middle East. That was basically the guys of it, and we were doing it without the express consent of Ronald Reagan at the time. One of those individuals who was able to get off and later on was fully pardoned by Bush. I don't remember if it was the first or second one when they got into office. He's now a Fox News commentator talking about Iran should not have nuclear weapons and that all of our intelligence says that they did, which is crazy. I also was doing some research into Reagan because they often try to model Trump's administration and policies to Reagan. And while there's some similarities, I still think they're vastly different people. The argument of how Democrats want all the jobs to go overseas, Democrats have played a monumental contributing factor to not having jobs here and less manufacturing. That is grossly incorrect. If you specifically look at the Reagan administration, despite him cutting taxes, corporate taxes by 50%, which under the goal of bringing all these businesses or keeping these businesses here, that's still where a large portion of our offshoring started. Was under Reagan. They had a 50% corporate tax rate cut, and they still shipped their job overseas because they wanted more money. Reagan enabled corporate greed. And then it ramped up, yes, in the 2000s, early 2000s. But again, that was under yet another Republican president. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's interesting when they say that Republicans want to do all these different things, but it's in practice, they don't. And quite frankly, I would argue never will. I can respect what you say you're trying to do as a Republican, but it always seems like you contradict yourselves when it comes to actual policy and implementation.
That part right there, I think we can agree. See, I took the political compass test. I've taken it a couple times, and it's usually pretty consistent. So you'd be surprised. I'm a progressive, but I also have a left leaning libertarian side of me on the political side, because I don't believe in massive government overreach. I think government serves a purpose. We can agree that bloated federal government is not necessarily the best thing. It's about prioritization of what we do with our tax dollars, right? So we can find some common ground there. Yeah, we agree. We don't want a lot of that bureaucracy. We don't want a lot of that bloat. We don't want a lot of that, waste, fraud, and abuse, which is primarily in the Defense Department currently. So there is some common ground there on that topic, broadly speaking.
6,000%. Guys, you're going to need to do a couple things while you're here. Make sure you're double tapping the screen till the heart bar gets full. Let's get the likes up to 100K and beyond. Engage with all the engagement is super important that you do. If you're not following me or Facts Don't Matter, make sure you do so. Hit that follow button in the top left corner. We are live every Saturday after 3 p.m. CST and randomly throughout the week. Also share out the live with your friends and family. Thank you guys for the follow. Repost and add to your story. Let's knock out the 1 cent gift goes at the top there to get us boosted out. And check out the links in the bio for the best ways to support the platform. We are here to speak to non-voters. We're here to speak to non-voters, but as usual, sometimes it could be hard for them to get up in the request or call the number on the screen. But if you are here, in the event that you are here, I want to know what the number one reason is for you to sitting out the election. Because I've heard several by several people, but I want to know what the biggest reason is. Is it because you ultimately think that it doesn't matter? Is it because that you think there's massive amounts of waste and fraud and abuse? Is it because maybe you did vote before and you felt that the country did not shift in the direction that your vote intended for it to? I want to know what. I want to know why. And this is the platform for you to do so. If you request up or call the number on screen, we will have that discussion and we can see if we can find some common ground.
Thank you to Linda. Good to see you at night, Steve. Thank you, Linda. Also to Marie. Thank you. I appreciate the work. Do something. Thank you, Marie. I appreciate you very much. Got it. Thank you.
Actually, would you like to take a moment to speak on the Do Something tour? I don't think some of my people are aware of what you're doing on that end. So please do.
Thank you, bro. Sure. Tour stop, the first semi-official tour stop is in Redding, California, Friday night, Shasta County. So the Do Something tour, you can find the video on my page. I had this idea last summer about, we can all do something in our communities, volunteering, making sandwiches for neighbors, helping out a friend in need. And I'm thinking, we all have the ability to do something. No matter what situation we're in, we can all do something. And that's turned into this tour. I'm going to be traveling the country, speaking to, much like this, hopefully speaking to non-voters. Obviously, you can't only talk to non-voters, but people who feel disenfranchised, people who feel left behind. I think there's 45 million people, Hector mentioned this before, that are just apathetic, lazy, that want to complain. But I think there's a large chunk of Americans that just feel left behind. And they have, rightly so, they feel left behind. They've been ignored. They've never been visited by a politician. They just don't feel like their vote matters. I want to talk to them to remind them that their vote does matter, their voice does matter, their presence does matter. Because if 90 million people is the number, and we can flip 1% of that voting base to re-engage, that's game changing. That's election winning. 2% is really changes to the House and Senate. 5% becomes a supermajority. So the margins we don't need a big turnout. I want people to re-engage. So that's what the Do Something tour is all about. You can find the link in my bio. You can find information about the tour stop. We're raising funds. You want to support it? Cash App, PayPal, Venmo at Facts Don't Matter. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like you got to at least half of your overall goal to fund it, which is incredible.
Yeah, we just hit half today. Exactly, just hit half today.
That is freaking awesome. Guys, if you want to support that tour, I believe you mentioned going to California tomorrow?
Friday. I'm flying out there tomorrow, but the event is Friday night. It's actually the first link in my link tree explains the event.
Got you. All that information is available in his link tree, guys. Make sure that you are checking that out. come Friday, he's on it. I mean, he's already been doing it on this platform. Amazing work, but he's actually going to be going door to door. And in California, at least, he doesn't have to worry about getting shot. So make sure that you are supporting that tour there. It is amazing. And then I can't wait to see you come through this side of the country, man.
Oh, I am. Don't you? All that sexy in one place when I come to Texas. Damn. Let's go.
Texas needs the help, man. Year after year and election after election, it's the same seemingly 3 million people that do not show up. And they have their reasons. I think I can appreciate Tallarico. He does seem to be motivating a lot of moderates specifically and getting more people, non-voters, to participate. So that's a great thing. But still, for the hurdles that we have, we need all the help we can get. In fact, I do have another story on that. I actually got this from a right-wing source, and I thought it was hilarious. So
Before you say that, you, sir, actually mentioned this to me. You said that, I think I remember this quote when you and I first started becoming friends. You said Texas is not a voter registration issue because there's more Democrats. It's a voter suppression issue in Texas, and we are seeing that play out for sure.
6,000%. We saw it happen with the last primaries, the Democratic primaries specifically. Those of you who do not know this, on the day of the final voting day, Republicans decided to implement this rule that changed some of the locations. They used to be able to go to their local polling centers, and specifically in Harris and I always say Tarrant. I do not remember if it's a Tarrant. There was 2 big counties. One's is Dallas. Specifically in those 2 counties, they changed it down to like the 2 centers. So people who just went 5 minutes away from them to their local polling centers then have to maybe drive 30 minutes, an hour to the main ones. And they did this on the day. Democrats were able to not stop them from doing it, but at least extend the voting time available for people to go and show up. And we have reports, and I have the screenshot still, of individuals in my Discord, specifically in Texas, who were in these lines until after 10:30 at night because of this rule. That's another thing I will say. If you believe the 2 wings of the same bird, why do you not see Democrats doing everything in their power to restrict your vote?
Exactly.
In fact, that is my question to anyone at that matter. Name a single time the Democrats tried to reduce the power of your vote. If anything, they try to expand it. And then they get criticized for making it too easy for fraud. Democrats are always doing everything in their power to make it easier for you to vote because they do understand the hurdles. They do understand the voter suppression. They do understand even gerrymandering. But for some reason, you get back into this mentality of, well, they're not doing enough and they ultimately don't care. They spend billions of dollars as a party trying to get you to the polls. I would say that shows that they care. Versus Republicans doing the same for a smaller base and then another couple billion to stop people from having the exact same rights as you do.
Was it Georgia? I feel like it was Georgia or South Carolina sold to the polls going to vote during election season after church on Sundays in the Black community. Is it Georgia? It might have been Georgia. I think there was this thing called sold to the polls. It might have been Georgia. I think Stacey Abrams was really influential in increasing voter registration. Am I missing that? I feel like that might be right. And they changed the hours of vote where you couldn't vote on Sundays anymore, and it was this massive voter.
That was Georgia. Okay. That was specifically 2020. I know it was between 2021 and 2023. They closed hundreds of polling locations. They changed the hours, heavily restricted it to the weekend, which packed it. They shut down a few other things. They restricted mail-in ballots. Yes, I remember this.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, if you have policies that support these communities, then why wouldn't you want more people to vote, right?
See, I'm on the site. Election day is May 16th. What state is this? Why is it not saying the state? Because it's still up. Powercoalition.org/souls to the polls. Oh, this is yeah. Here we go. I got it. See. This was for Louisiana? Oh.
I didn't mean to sidetrack you. I just thought that was a great example based on what you said.
No, you're good. I was remembering it, then I was trying to remember what state it was in. But yeah, this is maybe they have different branches. This one specifically that I'm looking at is for Louisiana. But I know what you're talking about that took place in Georgia because we were screaming about that for years. In fact, I think a lot of people forgot about that. Specifically, black Republicans or black people. I often cite that example to show, again, if your vote wasn't important, they wouldn't spend so much money to reduce it. And
Exactly.
I think it's one of those things where it became out of sight, out of mind, and it just kind of people forgot about it, unfortunately.
I was reminded, by the way, that when I come to Texas, I have to make sure that Kristen joins us for our fun. I was reminded I have to mention that.
That's not even a question. That's a given. Like what?
Okay.
That's a given. Absolutely.
I'd be in a lot of trouble if I didn't mention that.
We do not want that. No. Kristen scares me. Our primaries in Louisiana were supposed to be the 16th, but now we're just voting on amendments. You guys have props, I guess? I'm assuming you would have props to vote on. But you're running out of time.
Yeah, that's the one that and then the voters, I believe they're trying to remove Jeff Landry, the governor, right? So it's crazy. It's just once again, to Hector's point to start the show today, both sides are not the same. They are not. And for people to understand that, if you don't appreciate, listen, we could all advocate. I hate gerrymandering. I've always hated it. I would support a 50 state independent individual commissions across the country. Absolutely, sign me up, but not now. Can't do it now. You got to fight back and do anything you can. Why would you be intentionally trying to suppress the vote if your policies were popular?
Precisely. Especially when this administration ran off of a meritocracy. They didn't want anyone to just be handed opportunities for immutable characteristics. They wanted you to earn it. They wanted you to show yourself to be worthy of the positions of power that you're running on, off of the vision that you had for a state or the country. But instead, what we have is we want to, I believe, change the Constitution. That's the only reasonable reason as to why they're putting so much money into literally one or two lowly seats in predominantly red states, predominantly red districts. It's because the more they have, the more they would be able to look at things like the 14th Amendment specifically, which has been a huge talking point for the Trump administration, and then undo it, which would, depending on how it's done, that would challenge my citizenship. So my parents, when they came here, or at least one of them, it wasn't the legal way. They became a citizen, and then I was born. Someone can go back and say, because of the date and time that you were born here and the citizenship of your parent, you're not a citizen. Could you fucking imagine that? Someone busting through my home right now and putting me in the back of a bus for deportation for some shit that happened 28 years ago?
There's a little secret though, because if birthright citizenship becomes, a way of the dinosaur, that potentially impacts white America too. And I don't think white America has thought about that yet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it's kind of like the things that they talk about with allowing Trump to run a third term. And if you guys recall, that bill or several of those bills have already been introduced into Congress. They never left the committee. But many of those bills before the last draft, if I'm not mistaken, would have also opened up the door for the likes of Obama to run for a third term.
Correct.
And then they went ahead and changed it.
Of course they did. Can't bring the tan suit back. Can't have that.
No. Listen. And this is more so as an argument of how patriarchal this country is and misogyny than anything. But yeah, you put Obama against Donald Trump, we wouldn't have to worry about Donald Trump. Y'all thought 81 million votes for Joe Biden in 2020 was crazy? Shit. Obama would probably would have pulled 90. I can see it. Obama could have pulled 90.
Yeah, agreed.
Because what tends to happen is they even with Kamala Harris, I'll never forget this. I got pissed off at this actually. There was polling that was done mid to late last year that did a year-to-year review of sentiments that people held for Kamala Harris versus the sentiments they had for her on the campaign trail. Vastly different. She saw an overall healthy increase in people who actually understood what she was saying, supported her policies a year after they didn't vote for her. Insane. And now here we are. And the next point of this live is so that we don't have another year of looking back on what we could have done to stop this administration, what we could have done to reduce its powers and abilities. We can look back in a year and say, maybe we have successful impeachment trials, if not of Donald Trump, but many of his cabinet picks, because we had the right amount of Democrats in Congress. Fuck, independents for all I care. Maybe we can look into a year from now and we can say we were able to stop this war. We were able to stop, if not reduce funding for offensive weapons to Israel. We were able to maintain the ACA and set up a blueprint for universal health care come 2028. That all starts this year. And some of y'all's primaries are already done. So come general election in November, you just have to vote for whoever the blue candidate is. If you truly believe in harm reduction, if you truly believe in stopping a MAGA nut job from getting into these seats, that's how it has to go.
Completely agree. I've gone back and forth on whether or not, because I firmly believe that Democrats will take the House, and I'm actually starting to feel more confident about the Senate too, to be honest. Would you support articles of impeachment against the president in the House?
So I would, because I think we've done this shit
God bless
twice.
you.
Thank you, Mel, for the finger hearts. I appreciate you. We've done this twice. The only thing that stopped us was Republicans in the Senate. Both times, impeachment got to the Senate. The only thing that stopped us were the Republicans there.
Mitch McConnell specifically.
Exactly. I think he needs to go. I think we can use the tariffs that he imposed with IEEPA. I think we can even go as far as the recent ruling with the International Trade Court. I think we can use the internal conversations rhetoric surrounding mass deportation. I personally believe that could be a deportable offense because he quite literally has been challenging the 4th, the 5th, the 10th, the 14th Amendments. I think we can use all of those things. I think we can use his wild rhetoric as well.
Can we get 67 votes though? Is the question in the Senate? That's kind of my point.
Can we get it? That's what I'm going to say no. That's what I'm going to say no. So then that opens up a door to.
I think you're more likely, to be honest. I feel like there's enough Republicans in the Senate that despise Pete Hegseth, that despise Kash Patel, that despise RFK. I think if it was my choice, I would go after them, quite frankly.
I agree.
If you're going to use the power of impeachment, because I just don't think enough people, because there will be lingering effects of MAGA that a lot of the Republicans are going to want to run again to maintain power. They can't piss off that fractured MAGA base. They're still going to need it.
6,000%.
So I don't know. I mean, is it a fool's errand as they say? I don't know. I literally go back and forth on that topic.
I think that goes back into two things which people are getting tired of. So I can see how that can be not only a waste of time, but something that'll harm Democrats, is hyper focusing on Trump so much.
Yeah,
I do think we can do a much better job at kind of shifting off of him, and to some degree we can hyper focus on his picks. Absolutely. Because then it all goes back into Trump. If we can get them on Pam Bondi's terrible job and how she handled the Epstein files, if we can get them on Kristi Noem's ramping up of mass deportation, leading to some of the unrest that we saw in Minnesota and other states, if we can get Pete Hegseth on his warrior ethos of bombing everything up despite using decades-old intelligence and not updating it before the strikes, those are all things that we can use to then, by proxy, say all of them were picked by one man. All of them were confirmed by a particular party, despite the warnings that we put out in their confirmation hearings. So that makes you wonder, do they really have your best interest at heart? Mm-hmm. So I think that is a much better route to go, versus basically attacking from the bottom up versus starting from the top down. Because there's something about Trump that makes these people put their blinders on.
Agreed.
They just can't see past them. In fact, Steve, I'm not sure if you recall the stream you guys invited me to, where we were interviewing that candidate in Ohio. What was his name?
Naquan. Shit. I can't think of his name now.
Yeah,
Yes,
you know who I'm
he
talking
won.
about. He was
He won his seat. He won.
he
won.
did
He won.
win. Oh
He did.
yeah, because y'all that was like a couple days away.
Yeah.
I forgot to follow. That's awesome. That is awesome. Now I have to get his name. Hold on.
Yeah, I can't think of. I can't believe I can't think of his name. Son of a gun.
I need to message Lisa. She'll have it.
Yeah, because then I interviewed DJ Hamlin, who's running again as an independent against Hakeem Jeffries in New York. Daquan Neal. Thank you, Ollie's mom.
Bam.
Yep.
Daquan Neal.
Yep.
Perfect. Fantastic. So
Love that guy. Love that guy.
He was very smart. He was very well spoken. He was unapologetically progressive. I thoroughly enjoyed him. But I'm not sure if you picked up on this. When I asked the question that I did, the first question that I asked him is, I'm trying to see if I remember correctly. I believe I asked him, what is something, I think I said, what is something that you liked about Trump? Or I said, what is something that you think Trump does a really good job at? Something like
Yeah,
that.
you went to try to find, because he may be forced to answer that question. So as we're training candidates, so to speak. It's a really good question. Yeah, I think it was about, can you find one thing positive to say about the president or something to that effect, right?
Yes, absolutely. The reason why I asked that question is not because I want to sit here and litigate the accomplishments of President Donald Trump, but I think he's not half as bad. I think he's a royal piece of fucking shit. But I also understand that there are certain communities that you go into to where that's how you have to start with them. If you start off with how we truly feel, let's keep it a buck, which is Trump can't do anything good, or at least nothing that will take away from the overwhelmingly amount of bad that he's done, they're not going to listen to you. So that's something I've learned in some spaces where I'm having conversations, the ones that typically lead to being more civil, is that I'll say, yeah, I like the fact that he was able to bring back Mark Foley and a couple other Americans that were held in captivity in Russia and other places for a few years, which is true. One of the earliest things he did was bring back Mark Foley from Russian captivity. He was able to make a deal. Even though he wasn't able to end the Ukraine-Russia conflict, he was able to bring him back home alongside others. That's a good thing. I like the executive order that he passed that instructed agencies to better target Ticketmaster and their price gouging, monopolizing that they were having on so many tickets. If you've used Ticketmaster, you know that they jack up those tickets like a motherfucker. And there's nowhere else you can really go to get a better price. So he was able to address that, and actually within the last couple of weeks, we saw a good deal come out of that. So that was a good thing. What's another one?
He changed. He increased the penalty from misdemeanor to felony for animal abuse. I appreciated that one.
Absolutely. From his first term, he did put a hyper focus on animal abuse. That was a fantastic thing.
Agreed.
So we can look and say, hey, bam, he did these good things. No one's saying he's all bad.
Good policy's good policy, right? Give me good policy. That's the point.
Exactly. Hell, we could talk about the good policies that he's trying to run off of now. Now he's trying to talk about things like suspending the gas tax, which I thought was super duper funny because it was James Tallarico a couple days prior who proposed it in a viral video or ad in the state of Texas. Then the Trump administration follows up with doing so. Not that it would bring gas prices back to anywhere near what they were pre-Iran war levels, but
right.
Hey, it's not a bad idea.
You know what I would do if I was a governor of a blue state? I would do it at the state level right now, today, and beat the federal government to the punch. Because it's only 18% at the federal level for regular and 26 cents, I think, for diesel. But that money, the gas tax, goes to support highways and bridges and infrastructure, billions of dollars annually that we collect. So you're right, it makes no impact. But the state tax, that would be significant. And for blue states to do that right now that'd be fantastic. I'd love to see it.
1 second. Moz, y'all are doing a little bit too much on YouTube. I'm seeing some of these chats get muted and they're not slurring or anything like that. Oh, this person said Obama thumbs down. Don't mute them. Don't mute them. You can motivate them to call in, and after a while they don't, then sure. But try not to be so aggressive in the YouTube chat, y'all. In Erica's last chat, she was challenged by a caller saying effectively black Americans are going away because of the number of abortions they're having. Oh my God. If you, I've actually heard this from a few non-voters. I've heard people say that they can't get alongside Republicans because they think Republicans are actually too draconian when it comes to women's bodily autonomy and abortion. And then I've heard people say that they can't get with Democrats because they think Democrats are too lax on abortion, which I think are very, very interesting points. I understand the right one, but in regards to Democrats being lax, I guess my question to you would be, what would you consider, not you specifically, but what would you guys consider lax policies on abortion? Because ultimately they go alongside the point of viability.
Ask the women in your chat. Would Roe be too lax at this point? Would bringing Roe back at the federal level be considered too lax? Does that feel like a compromise?
Roe was the bare minimum.
I would think so, right? But that would be a question to ask.
Very much so. Very much so. I think if you want to talk about incentivizing women to have children, then you should probably talk about creating a system or economy that welcomes in children. The vast majority of reasons why people do not have kids right now are financial. And when we saw inflation hit 3.8%, gas prices rising, everything rolls up. Actually, we broke down the chart. Your rent went up, your gas went up, your electricity went up, your everything. So looking at these groups of people right now, coupled with, we also talked about the fact that they're now looking to garnish your wages once again for student loans. That's going to start come July. You have 90 days to pick one of the big, beautiful bills repayment plans, in which case I don't know which one of those plans are actually decent or reasonable, but you have 90 days to pick one. Otherwise, they can take up to 15% from your checks, and then you're paying infinitely more. And now you want those people to have kids?
Well, Hector, don't worry. Dr. Oz just wants to remind you that 1 in 3 women are underbabied. Whatever the fuck that means.
I saw that clip followed up with RFK. This man said with his full chest that young men of today don't have the same sperm count as men from the past, or some shit like that. And I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. Then you have that one host, of course, on Fox Entertainment, that said people between the ages of 15 or 19 are not having kids anymore.
Correct.
And I was like, you want to speed up like 3 more of those years? You want to knock 3 of those off? What do you mean 15 through 19? What a weird fucking thing to say.
People, at Handmaid's Tale, sure, it's full blown fucking Gilead. I mean, we're past Handmaid's Tale, bro. That's like Bush Light. We are in full on Guinness when it comes to the oppression of women, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. And South Carolina is reviving the redistricting. I just got that news from an hour ago. Yay! Yes. If I'm not mistaken, the quote was, he said, the teens of today don't have the same sperm as the men. Somewhere he included minors in there, as he usually does. It was weird. You watch Fox News? No. I don't think you heard the words that came out of my mouth. That's okay. Any case, if you are a non-voter, this live is for you. The goal of this live is to discuss what exactly would it take to get you to vote in the elections, to understand your hesitation towards doing so, whether this time or in the past. Everything is political. Why aren't you? I cannot stress this enough. Every single thing is political. Why aren't you? And you guys understand politics very well. Very well. First and foremost, you understand politics at your jobs. You understand politics in your friendship circles. You understand politics in your video games. We can understand how to navigate these things in other aspects of our life, but for some reason, when it comes to casting a ballot that can pass the legislation, that can save lives, that can increase healthcare access, that can get people fed, we tend to throw our hands up in the air. And I don't think that makes any sense. I think we need to get good at the political game, especially if we're to talk about making better lives for ourselves. If not for you, what about your family members? People who may not be able-bodied, people who may not be in the same tax bracket to you, people who may not have the same access to grocery stores or Medicare or healthcare centers, we probably should work on fixing the country at least for them.
If I were to give you a choice, and you had to choose one to prioritize, and if you're the president, you're in charge, you can only get one when you take charge. Would you choose implementing universal health care day one or overturning Citizens United?
Shit. So I'm going to say Citizens United.
Me too.
Because Citizens United basically will go into getting universal health care.
And everything else we want.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because even if we were able to... Yeah. Citizens United. Actually, that shit's easy. Citizens United.
Yep.
Because that is those lobbying interests that stop everything from the fucking NRA for us to get a comprehensive firearm legislation to even some of these special sessions that we've seen, mid-redistricting, all of these different things, to getting more corporate wealth taxes. Yeah. Citizens United. Absolutely.
Because that frees us up, to get your point, that frees us up to get everything. To get everything we want. Education reform. We can again overfund public education. We can reroute corporate donations to the private sector if they want to keep capitalists happy in the short term. I don't care what you call it. I don't care. I just want fucking healthcare, and I want money out of politics. And it's weird that those things are considered progressive
or radical.
I know, right?
Like the amount of things we'd be able to do in terms of, so if we were able to get money out of politics, one of, I think, the most amazing things that will take place almost immediately happen after are resignations. I think we'd see resignations because that money out of politics, which also stops some individuals from voting on behalf of things like insider trading. And
Correct.
the several bills that have been put forward to completely block that. Some of them that got out the committee, they were in the House and never made it to the Senate. That would stop those from being held up in the House, and they would move on to the Senate. So now without insider trading, a lot of these people would lose their wealth. And with them losing their wealth, with them going to a base government salary, I think the individuals who don't have Americans' interests at heart would just get the fuck up out of Congress. I don't think we even have to worry about voting them out at that point. Some of them. I think a lot of them would just quit.
I think you're absolutely right about that. I think that's kind of the point. That's term limits right there.
Very much so. Very much so.
And I think that would be I'd like to think it's a common ground issue. I really do. I'd like to think people would agree that there's just too much money, thus too much influence in politics, right? Because that's where the influence begins, it stops and starts. Whether it be, like you said, NRA, whether it be the medical device industry, big pharma, big oil, etc. That, once again, we are our neighbors. Sadly, I be careful how I say this. It's not right versus left. It's top versus bottom. It's up versus down. The real threat are the people that are influencing our elections, and it's a very small number. I've talked about this before. 900 billionaires in our country, cumulative wealth of over $8 trillion.
Insane. I had a guest come up, and his criticism for any kind of increased corporate tax rate, unrealized capital gains tax, or even the pied-à-terre in New York City. His argument against it was that you can completely demolish the wealth of the world's richest men right now, and like the $8 trillion that you talked about, and that still would knock down our national debt. And I said, well, duh. The national debt is something that we can only tackle over time. The big thing is getting out of being insolvent, but that's not the goal of taxing the rich, is necessarily to address the national debt, because some of that is good debt, some of it.
Yeah, agreed.
The goal is that we can balance the budget, and then over time we can look towards paying it. There is no politician that can or will or should ever run off of knocking out in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 40 years or 50 years. We just need to stop the reckless spending. We need to work towards an economy that is able to stop paying so much into interest, for one, and then we can then retain that interest and put it more towards programs.
Democratic socialism again, my friend, right? Democratic socialism.
Very much.
Trickle up economics. There's a model. It works. It can work, I should say.
Powell memo. I don't know what that means, Miss Donna. Someone told me to ask you, could you please harass Steve to come back to YouTube or explain himself? What happened to you on YouTube, Steve?
Well, it's a little complicated. I'm working through some technical difficulties. I was going to ask you, but not anymore.
That issue was TikTok. That had nothing to do with me. It was TikTok refusing to let my guest up.
So the issue that I'm having is I've got a stream key request that I need from TikTok, and they've not yet responded. So that's what I'm waiting for.
I don't even stream with a stream key. I have mine, but I don't. Do you use StreamYard or OBS to go to YouTube?
Streamlabs from TikTok to YouTube to Twitch.
Streamlabs from TikTok to YouTube to Twitch. Okay, so to complete it in from TikTok, you would need that stream key.
I have everything I need. Hardware is all set. Worked it out with my son this weekend. That's the one thing that I'm waiting for. I check every day. Haven't gotten it yet.
Do you have an agent?
I do not have an agent. I'm agentless. I'm a free agent.
I would strongly suggest you get an agent, because going through TikTok as just a regular person, they tend to disregard your requests versus an agent.
Okay, who wants to offer me Dom Perignon and caviar to become part of the agency? Where's my Ferrari? Where's my cash?
Yeah. That's true, Mark. So I'm using OBS, so I didn't need one. I have mine when I thought I needed it, but with OBS, you don't need one. But since he's using Streamlabs and OBS is a bit of a learning curve, I would suggest that you get that. In fact, I'm gonna hit up Ari. I'm gonna tell Ari to hit you up.
Ari and I spoke in New York, actually, and I think there was a delay because I was left one agency, then went back to another agency. Yeah, so yeah, Ari, yes, help me, please.
I see. I got you.
Yep.
I got you.
Yep. But thank you. Appreciate you.
Fair enough. I will get their information put down here. Guys, you guys know facts still matter. In fact, let me pin his YouTube. Make sure that you are following him on YouTube, because he will soon start back streaming to there as well. But he's mostly on TikTok right now. He goes over the news every single morning for about 3 to 4 hours and breaks down all the things that a lot of the times the big news networks are not covering. And I'm going to put his thing here. How do I share this? I think this is super important. And I decided to do this today because of all of the stories that I was covering. And I got depressed. All the different stories that I was able to touch on the Fun and Fact show, those of you who were there, versus the things that I didn't get to touch on. And I just thought to myself, wow, this country is really fucked. Not gonna lie. It's like, this country is fucked. And the goal of this live is to see what we can do about it, because unfortunately with MAGA, it's a circus. You just get a lot of the same talking points. If you've been watching my lives for the last 2-3 fucking weeks, it's been immigration, transgender people, and me being gay. I still don't understand that part. That's the best they've been able to come up with. And I'm just like, this is not doing anything. This is not helping anyone. While I do firmly believe, for the most part, we do this for the individual in the comments who are too afraid to request up and who are still listening into this information, I also do try to encourage discussions. Because I think one of the things that we've lost as a society, to no fault of ours necessarily, is the ability to talk to one another as if we're human beings, the ability to address one another and see that humanity versus just party lines. So that's the goals of these lives. No matter what sticker that I have up, those discussions are important for people to see that we are still talking, even though if it gets contentious or not. But unfortunately, it seems like some days, if you don't have Trump up on the background, people are not interested in talking. And it doesn't make much sense to me. it doesn't make much sense to me because when Trump is gone, we're still here. We still vote. We still have the fight against
God
fascism.
bless you.
We still have, thank you, Jordan, for the moonwalk. We still have the fight for universal health care, the fight for better education, healthcare access specifically for women. All those things still exist. Yes, they have up the transphobia, Charlie. They have been wilding. Yes.
Yeah.
But I say all that to say we have got to get over Trump because he's going to be out of it in 2028. He can't run again. He's trying to change that, but he can't run again. And then we can't lose any motivation to participate just because the quote unquote entertainment factor is gone, which I vehemently reject. I say it all the time. These lives are not for entertainment. Yes, it's fun to listen to someone dog walk a MAGA or anything of that nature, but there are more important things at play. And if you're just here to listen to someone get schooled and then you sit on your couch and you watch the world burn around you, then that's not what we need going forward.
I would agree. I think it's a really good point. I mean, some people genuinely, figuratively, and literally get off on MAGA being dragged. There's no doubt about that. That's the amygdala response, right? But, I know what you do in your show, and I know what Erica does on hers, and I know what the Fun and Fact show is about, and what we've tried to make our show about, because life will proceed. We have to remind people that there are still nefarious actors out there that are taking rights away. We've never, ever lived, at least I can't recall, living through a time when rights are being taken away from people.
Yes.
We're supposed to be progressing as a society, and that's not going to stop. It's another argument for harm reduction. Put the brakes on this shit, and then we can fix the car.
And that is precisely what this election is about. We're really not moving the needle. I couldn't have put it better myself. We are putting the brakes on fascism. Kimchi, I saw you just joined. Kimchi, in fact, I'm going to leave a note here. Also, just send me a message so I have it for reference, because I owe you a hat, Kimchi. You won the hat for that one stream, and I forgot to reach out to you. I reached out to Brittany, so please hit me up with your P.O. box if you have it, or a safe address. Please hit me up with that. Greenie, how you doing? Are you there?
Hey, how are you doing tonight?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm a friendly. So I have a question for you and Steve both.
Sure.
And I think, so I'm married to a 3-time Trump supporter. Been married for almost 25 years. I think one of the issues that I'm seeing with other people is their anger towards MAGA supporters. Do you think that's something that might fade away? Do you have any advice to drop that anger? Like, do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to try not to say what I want to say because I don't think that's going to be helpful. But I guess at that point, all you can do is find the common, kind of like what Steve and I were talking about earlier with, okay, this is the question I should ask you. Is your husband a 3-time Trump supporter based off the fact that he's Republican, or is it more so he just really likes Trump? Because those are two very different ballparks that a lot of people are in.
He's a Republican.
Okay.
Diehard, would never vote Democrat.
Okay, interesting. So I think at that point, versus telling him everything on the Democratic side and what's better and this and that, I think you should probably start with deconstructing what he believes it means to be Republican and how he thinks it applies to Trump. That's what I think. Because what I realized is a lot of these people are never going to see our side at all. It's just one of those things we would just have to outvote them. But at least we can make them think. So kind of like we were talking about with limited government, less red tape, family values, which that's a load of shit, but family values, I think you can hone in on those things and go, well, why do you think Trump, even Christian values, why do you think Trump embodies any of those things? And you can point out the ways in his life, whether personal or policy wise, that he's quite literally contradicted that. I think that's where it should start, because there may be a chance, or maybe no chance in hell, that you're ever able to get him to flip. But I think you can at least start to get him to understand that Trump is the opposite of what he values as a Republican.
And thank you, because I totally agree. And so I think I might have not gotten my question out, because I understand my marriage is a totally different issue. But I'm angry at my neighbors. I'm angry at friends. That's what I think. Do you think that other Democrats feel that way? Other people that voted against Trump? And how do we get past that kind of anger? Does that make sense? Like,
I don't. Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry. I think I heard you say something.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. So you're. Let me just make sure I understand this, Greeny. That you're upset that your neighbors are angry at you and your husband because he voted for Trump and you still support him. Is that the issue?
no, it's more so that
Her anger.
So
I think
I
you're talking
live
about
in
your
the
anger
South.
towards them.
Yeah, so let me tell y'all, I live in the upstate of South Carolina. If you don't know much about that area, it's really red. So my neighbors are pretty much Republican. But I see this now that my community's growing and stuff, that other people are talking about it, that they're still so angry at their friends or relatives. I don't know. Maybe I'm not making sense. I'm thinking, like, are we going to be so angry for so long?
I think so. So let me see if I can reframe the question. So are you saying how long will the anger exist even when Trump's no longer in the picture? Is that the question?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. I think to me, it's understanding why people are angry. And the issue, I think, is justified that people are angry, especially since in your husband's case, you said he's Republican. So to Hector's point earlier, he just votes Republican. So he's not voting for anything. He's voting against being a Democrat.
Yep.
Yes.
Right? And I think that's the issue, because we know, Greeny, for the last 50 years, Republican policies have not helped middle-class Americans. They just haven't. So that would be an argument, unless you're in the 10%, you don't have to share that. But it's not helping people. So that people have been harmed because of votes for Republicans, not just votes for Trump. It's just been exponentially harmful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the issue.
Well, and I mean, so his dad, he was born much later in his dad's life. So his dad was a Democrat in the 60s. And y'all know what happened in the South in the 60s to Democrats. And he doesn't quite believe that. Does that make, like, he
Not
thinks
Democrats,
still...
conservatives, not Democrats. It was conservatives. So that's the party switch.
I was just going to say that's a good point. So we tend to get mixed up with the party labels when it really goes back to ideology. And obviously the Democrats of the past were Democrats in party name only. They were conservatives who voted or were identified with the Democratic Party. But now we would in no way, shape, or form say that they would be, I guess, liberal or left-leaning. But yes.
So you would only consider them more conservative?
Oh yeah, every single person who upheld slavery, or the Dixiecrats and whatnot, they were conservative. They had a conservative ideology. I was just reading an article on a Democrat in the 60s who fought against the Voting Rights Act of 1965. He was a Democrat in name only. That's why we often hyper-focus when we're talking about the past on ideologies, because that was more... that makes more sense than talking about the parties, because obviously we can look at the Republican Party of today and they're nothing like the Republicans who helped free the slaves, right? That's where the ideology switch came into play.
Okay. Well, and I just want to thank y'all. I only came up as a friendly and just to ask about the anger issue that I see so many Democrats having towards
I don't
Anybody who voted for Trump.
I don't think I don't think I don't think there's anything we can do about the anger, because I think that that anger is not only justified and expected, but we also get daily reminders and daily stings of the people who voted against our rights, especially those of us who come from the communities that attacked the most. I would never tell a marginalized member, a woman, or anything else that they should get over their anger. I'm not saying that's what you were saying, but that they should get over their anger or reduce it or try to find common ground, because they don't have to. They have no business in doing that. Nobody can come to me and say, you need to make peace with this person or this. No, I'll tell you, go fuck yourself. Do I think that's overall good? No, but I think it's healthy for the individual to set a line and a boundary, and then the person on the opposing side is going to have to set a consequence. It's different for you because you're married to that, and Godspeed to you, because I don't I don't know how you do it. I really don't. I have the privilege of not being in any close proximity or relationship, family or otherwise, with MAGA. My family is just a bunch of non-voters. So that's at best what I have to deal with. I even was able to talk to my mother and get her to consider voting locally this election. So she's a work in progress, or was. Anyway.
Yeah, and see, my mom, it was the same way as I am, and she passed away 7 years ago. So I'm stuck with my dad, my husband, and his Republican Southern family. But that's okay. But I want to thank you for your platform, Hector, and Steve. I listen to you most mornings. Thank you guys, because what you're doing is amazing. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you for letting me come up.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming up. You enjoy the rest of your night.
I will. Do you want me to drop down, or do you want? Okay.
I got you. Thank you.
Bye, Greeny. Thank you.
Ellis, I'm so sorry for the wait. Are you a voter or non-voter?
I was a non-voter.
Got you. All right, I'll ask you the question. Everything is political. Why aren't you?
I really appreciate what that lady said earlier, and I don't have a ton of time. But just to kind of offer, I guess, a new perspective. I mean, like you said, it's not really about Democrat and Republican. It's more about conservative and liberal. Like, those are the two ideologies. And I think for a lot of people, they just don't identify with either one. And there's some issues that seem like when you have a two-party system and it seems like there's only like two binary viewpoints, either you're for all of these things on one side or for all of these things on the other side. For someone that's, kind of, and some people are not political because due to religious reasons or stuff like that. But I think it just kind of comes down to just not identifying with either side. Obviously, those are the loudest voices in America, right? Because they've kind of made into two sides. But America is such a big place with so many people and so many different opinions. It's hard to imagine like everyone is going to fit into two.
I think you in your attempt to speak on, it's not about party, it's more about ideology. I think you also conflated it with your response. And what I mean by that, you said there are people who you believe do not identify with being more liberal or conservative. And I would say, I would say that's impossible. Actually, if we're speaking from an ideological perspective on what your values are, what you care about, what you don't care about, it tends to put you in one camp. That camp doesn't always mean that you're aligned with or you will vote for said party. For example, what are things that you care about? If you were to give me 3 things that you put on the priority of what you want to see go well or right or be left alone in the world, what would you say those things are?
I mean, the things I care about the most are probably my faith, number 1. Number 2, I'd probably say my family, including my wife. And number 3, everything kind of really centers around that. I mean,
Wouldn't it be safe to say, Ellis, that we all care about those things, though? I think Hector's question is more pointed towards structurally in our system, right? For example, education, healthcare, social safety net, economic policy, things like that.
Oh, I guess it kind of depends on each one. I think everybody should be able to um, get a job and provide for their family. Um, but I don't know. I can't tell you like a specific policy that I'm like, this would be good.
Yeah,
You know
I'm
what I
not
mean?
necessarily expecting you to bring up policies, but yes, you mentioned your faith, you mentioned your family, specifically your wife. I'm going to assume that you don't have any kids. Do you plan to have children?
No, not even a little bit. I'm not a
Gotcha.
kid person.
Rough economy for that.
I mean that, and I'm not a kid person. I mean, being a dink is pretty great. We have a lot of money and a lot of time. Well, not a lot of money, but we have.
You want to keep it. Yeah. I mean, you want to keep your money. Yeah. Kids kind of take your money away. I get that. Okay. So you care about your faith and you care about your wife. So, I'm not religious, or at least I'm not anymore. But I grew up religious, and many of those values, while I don't exclusively identify with faith, I think they can correlate, but not exclusively, are values that I still hold today. So, is your faith? I'm arguing like the Abrahamic religion. You believe in God the Father, Jesus, second coming.
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Got you, Christian. So, when I voted Democrat in the 2024 election, is when I was a Christian. And I voted Democrat on behalf of my Christian values. Now, one thing that I won't do is tell everybody what it means to be a Christian, or in terms of like determining what someone's Christianity is. But I think we can look objectively in the Bible, and we can look at the structure of it, its principles, what it advocates for. And I would make the argument that a liberal to leftist ideology is very much Christian. The reason why I would say that is specifically in regards to Jesus, is that Jesus came down to this world to basically show people that the structures that was created by the Romans and even the belief system of the Jews was null and void. It was inept. It was harmful. He told you to love everyone. He told you to heal the sick, lead the blind, feed the hungry, help the homeless. So oftentimes those policies in regards to addressing millions, if not billions of dollars to homelessness, supporting NGOs separate from the government to actually address those issues on their individual state levels, programs that help feed the hungry, those of you who are incapable of making enough money to do so, because the majority of people on SNAP do have full-time jobs, those are often supported by Democrats. Those are often supported by left-wing individuals. In fact, left-wing individuals want to take it further than Democrats. I covered a story today in Arizona with, I believe, 47% of Arizonians were cut off of SNAP in the last year, which equates to about 400,000 people. 400,000 people, again, full-time workers who already was getting a little bit from the state and were working and were paying their taxes, now have to find additional ways to put food on the table, or at least enough food, without penny pinching on everything else that they need. I don't think that that's something that Jesus would support. In fact, I know it's not something that Jesus would support. I don't think that's a Christian value at all. So I'm of the firm opinion that if you are to believe in Christianity, if you're to believe in Jesus and his message, it's to protect the people around you. It's to consider everyone, even, thank you guys for the gifts, even those different from you, as a neighbor. And I don't think the Trump administration in any way, shape, or form looks to other people as their neighbors unless you agree with them.
Yeah, no,
God bless you.
It's
what?
effects. Sorry, it's the effects from the.
Oh, okay, no worries. Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I mean, I don't really understand how people look at Trump and see Christian values, because I definitely don't. But like I said, from my perspective, from others, like there's a lot of ways that, liberalism aligns more with, my particular faith and believing in the Bible. And there's a lot of ways that it doesn't. And same with conservatism. There's a lot of ways that it does align and a lot of ways that it doesn't. And so I think I don't know the right way to put it, but I think like you can decide which one of those things are more important to you that align
Thank you,
more
Katie.
with like your faith, but it kind of depends on each person.
But why does it have to be? I guess that was the question I would ask. Is you said why do you need to necessarily identify with any one particular belief set to vote for the greater good?
That's a good point.
I have to agree, because I have to agree with the values that they are. Like, if I'm going to support somebody, I feel like I would need to support the values that they are going to enact, or agree with the policies that they're going to enact.
Well, that's exactly what I mean, though, because like in politics, and I appreciate the conversation. In politics, if we're looking for perfection, for lack of a better term, if you're looking to try to find a candidate to make it personal, that's going to align with every possible belief set, that is a fool's errand. You're never going to find that. So what we talk about here often is harm reduction. So objectively speaking, are you at all involved? Are you aware for the most part about basic economic policies, basic political identities? Are you aware of? I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just asking out of curiosity. Are you generally aware of the differences between the two parties?
Yeah, I know like I mean, obviously gas is really high right now. Most people aren't a fan of that.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the specifics. I'm talking general ideology, right? The reason I say it that way is because if you don't have kids, you want to hold on to your money, but other people have children that are suffering. Other families are struggling to make ends meet. Other families have been kicked off their health care. As a Christian, do you have compassion for that?
Absolutely.
That's a vote for harm reduction. That's why I would encourage you to vote for a Democrat.
All those points are fantastic. Thank you, Steve, for saying that. But I would also say he made a great point with saying that your values doesn't have to 100%, or the values of the party, I should say, doesn't always 100% have to be Christian. I would say any Christian that's looking to the two-party system and expecting any one of them to be some model of Jesus is gaslighting themselves. But you can, however, look at what's presented election after election, or better yet, the overall ideology, I would argue, and you can show, okay, this more so reflects the values of Jesus. Yes, we can talk about the fact that Democrats have participated in warmongering just like the Republicans, which is the opposite, right, of your values. Yes, we can talk about how both parties have participated in harming Americans or putting more oversight on them by corporations who do not have their best interests at heart, 6,000%. But then we can also talk about access to healthcare, the ability for an individual to walk into an ER and be able to have the right care that they need, regardless of citizenship. The ability to be able to afford basic necessities, not because they're making a bunch of money, but because it's not unnecessarily jacked up to hell. I think we have a lot of fraud and abuse of power, specifically from corporations who will look at, say, a natural disaster or fluctuations in the market. We can look at the oil companies. Before we even got any oil affected from the Strait of Hormuz, because we get very little from it, companies jacked up the prices of gas. They had no reason to. It didn't impact us yet, but they jacked it up just because, in anticipation. That is something how under, let's say, the 2024 price gouging ban that Kamala Harris presented would have been stopped. Because the federal government and the attorney general would have been able to step in and go, you have no reason to jack up the prices yet. We don't get much oil from the Strait of Hormuz, and it's not going to impact us, or at least not up until this point. You are intentionally trying to weaponize this event so you can make more money, and that's against the law. That is something that I think would be beneficial to the overwhelming amount of Americans. That is something that I think Jesus would support. Jesus was not a fan of scammers. In fact, he flipped their tables over. But I want to go back to the point you made specifically about you felt that some people did not lean in any ideology. And that's the reason why I said I don't think that's possible, because they're going to lean somewhere one way or another. Whether they care more or they care less, that's going to put you in those two camps. But those camps don't always necessarily reflect the party values or the party campaigns that they're running off of.
So, like, I mean, I guess to give an example, because I really don't want to turn this onto like, a debate of ideology. I'm not trying to change you guys or change anybody,
No,
but like,
that's not what this conversation's for. Yeah.
if somebody like really values life, and let's just say whether it's born or unborn, they might be wholly against conflicts, but they also might be completely against, I'm sure you can tell what I'm talking
Elective
about.
abortions. Yep.
Right. And so you either would, and like, I mean, obviously both sides are responsible for conflicts in the Middle East. I mean, both sides are responsible for, I'm trying not to get banned off TikTok, so I don't want to say the word, but, basically pew-pews and across the world in conflicts and things. So like, you might be opposed to both or like not wanting to support. It kind of feels like, well, if you don't want to support this thing, but then you have to also support this other thing, that you don't actually want to support, and vice versa. If you kind of are caught on both sides, 'cause there's not, for some people, there's not one side where everything lines up.
That's the point. Yeah, that's kind of exactly the point. So I understand you sort of not wanting to dive into the AB debate. Then first of all, don't compare it to a war, right? They're totally different things. It's healthcare, it's women's reproductive rights, the rights of their body. More specifically, though, if you choose and your family, your wife choose not to have one, why should other people not be able to make that same choice?
I mean, again, I don't necessarily feel like I'm going to like tell other people what you should and shouldn't do. You know,
You are
everyone.
though by not voting. You are though by not voting.
Well, by not voting, I'm not selecting a candidate who's going to tell people what to do. Like, if Kamala
It's not
Harris
about what to do. Ellis, it's not about what to do. It's about your participation in not voting. I have this theory that when good people stop showing up, bad people fill the room. And I'm not accusing you of being a bad person, but if we don't decide that women should have bodily autonomy, control over their bodies, then that's not freedom. So if you and your wife and your family planning does not include having kids, and your belief set says that you don't believe in abortions, why should you not say, but I support other people to make their own decisions?
Because then I'd have to be saying that this thing is okay or this
No.
thing is morally acceptable, and I don't
No,
feel
it's
that
not.
way.
It's not saying that at all.
Yeah.
On the contrary. It's not saying that
it
at all.
does.
So
I think it does.
I think that is actually a very common fallacy that takes place. People believe that if they're saying you have the right to do what you want to do with your body, that I'm enabling you to do something that I disagree with. But that's the thing. It is your disagreement. It's your personal conviction, your belief. That belief is never supposed to spread over to another person to the degree to where it's trumping their individual liberties, which is where I'm going to bring this argument back to. Do you believe that Jesus understood and respected the ability for another person to exercise their bodily autonomy and individual liberties?
Individual liberties. I mean, I guess, what do you mean? Like went from
Their individual rights to live, to express, to do what they wanted to do for themselves and their bodies and their quite frankly, property. Do you believe that Jesus stood for individual liberties?
It's hard for me to answer that clearly because I believe Jesus was specifically laying out what Christians should do and how Christians should act. So if you don't identify as a Christian, then it doesn't really appeal to you.
Well,
so I can't really say how Jesus felt about what non-Christians did, or people that
we can, right? Did. We can say based off of his teachings, we can say based off the life he led, even his mission statements, his directives for people of the faith would still not trump their individual liberties, right? That person would have the right to choose to follow him, to choose to follow that line of faith-based believing versus not, right? He invited people to follow him, but it was never forced. It was never a requirement. So the answer is yes. Jesus very much stood for individual liberties. He also stood for consequences, right? But you had the right to do what you wanted to do. We can go all the way back to the Garden of Eden, where God quite literally allowed two people to damn all of humanity because he firmly believed in the fact that everyone should be able to choose life, to choose faith, versus them being forced to. God himself understood the importance of free will. And we have laws on the books already, laws that say if you kill someone, if you do this, you do that, you're going to get the belt, or you know what I mean. But outside of that, everyone should have the right to do whatever they want to do and live how they choose to live, freedom of expression, so on and so forth. And our Constitution protects that. I think Jesus very much aligns with those.
This was an interesting conversation, but unfortunately, I got to scoot. But it was good talking to you guys. Have a great night.
Enjoy the rest of your night, Matt.
Please reconsider.
Yeah, I
Can I?
Yes, 1 second.
Can
I'm
I
so sorry.
jump in?
Jesus. Shit, you're the woman. Actually, we should have let you speak on behalf of that part. Jesus wanting you to follow him, Jesus having a set order of principles that he would want his followers to go along, isn't him not being for individual liberties. Those are two different things. Really quickly, W's in the chat to Above Infinity for the $20 super chat. Oh, please, no more of this two-winged same bird Crayola crap. Straddling the fence due to intellectual laziness, posing as self-proclaimed self-righteousness is so mid, it makes the skin cells on my nether regions annoyed. I agree, Infinity. I could not agree more. W's in the chat to you, Infinity. W's in the chat to you. Infinity said, Hector, why are you being so nice today? Get to it! Trying something different. W's to you. Guys, best ways to support the platform is going to be in the links in the bio. If you like all the different things that we're doing here and the conversations, if you want to support this platform, whether for this or otherwise, you can do so with those links in the bio. Please make sure we're taking care of Fax as well while he's here. Let's get him above 2,000 coins. And I also want to hear some thank yous for him because his apps are in the links in the bio, whether it's Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo. Poetivity, yes. Are you a voter or non-voter?
I'm a voter and I'm left. And I just wanted to say, here's what the right knows that we don't know. So the right knows that it's easier to get people out to vote passionately when they're voting against things than for things. But the list of things that they get people to vote against are ridiculous. They're against California. They're against gun regulation. They're against windmills and solar panels. They're against men and women's sports, which doesn't happen at all. They're against unaliving unborn babies. They're against socialism. They're against voter fraud, and they're against I have a list. I have it on the thing, but I can't read it. Anyway, so we can do the same thing, and we should, because we're always saying we're voting for, we're voting for, we're voting for, we're voting for, and that's harder to get people to turn out for. So, and research proves this. So we can say we're against suppression of freedom of expression. We're against regulation of speech in the surveillance state. We're against government family planning. We're against greedy billionaires making all the laws. We're against government assigned religion. We're against criminals running the government. We're against being last in the world to attack climate change. We're against weakening science and education. We're against racism by policy. We're against concentration camps and cruel immigration policies. We're against the president being able to pocket all our taxpayer dollars in his own pocket for his own family. So we can emphasize that. But the two most successful politicians we have seen recently, Kamala Harris and Barack Obama, both of those people also gave something to vote for. They gave hope and enthusiasm, and they painted a picture of a successful society where everybody had a chance. And so at both times, in both ways, we need to hit. And the more joy is on our side, the more hope is on our side, the more people are going to be drawn to our side. On the right.
Did you start roboting for anyone else?
They are bitter. I'm sorry. I'm on the ferry, and so I'm
all good. I really like that point that you made, actually, because funny enough, Steve mentioned it earlier, and I agree with him, but I in part disagreed. I do think it is helpful to approach the conversation. Sometimes with some people, we can get them to go, okay, you think you're voting for this, but what if you harmed your daughter? What if you harmed your son? What if you did this? What if you did that? I think that works for some people, but I think a lot of people, and the reason why they vote is selfish. So I don't always think the broader approach of saying vote for someone else is really appealing to people who are selfish as hell, especially when it comes to that group of people. But I also like your perspective of, yes, we do vote for a lot, and then they always go, we're for everybody, we have no standards, whatever the fuck. I think we can very much frame it how they do as well. We can say, hey, we're anti this, we're anti that, and we're anti anything anti-American, essentially. So different strokes for different strokes. I think there's all the different, many ways we can approach those conversations, but I really like how you framed it. On that note, I see Seth is here, so I'm going to kick you down.
Yeah,
I do
you're
appreciate
gonna
you
go
coming
ahead
up.
and drop. Yeah, you can drop me. Thanks you for having me up. I just really think that the right has nailed how to message to their voters. But what they're doing, their voters are now against. In the Art of War, it says that when your enemy's making.
I really appreciate you coming up. I really, really appreciate you coming up.
Thanks, Bob.
Seth, are you a voter or non-voter?
Voter, I just had a quick question for you. I know we debated like a couple months back. Just if you had a candidate, just say they were Republican, but they were obviously like a better choice, like all policies and everything were better. Would you then in turn vote Republican or would you stay Democrat?
I don't vote alongside party lines and party lines alone. I would vote on the policies and merits of that candidate. And if I saw a Republican who I thought, in fact, I'll give you a good example. I'll give you a real life example. If Zohran Mamdani was not running in the New York City mayoral primary against Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa, and it was just Sliwa and Cuomo, I would have voted Sliwa.
Okay, I respect that.
I think Sliwa is an infinitely better man, and in many cases, a better, I won't say leftist, but liberal than Andrew Cuomo. Go ahead, Fax.
The governor of my state, I live in Vermont, his name is Phil Scott. I voted for him twice. He's the first Republican governor to come out against Trump multiple times. He's passed legislation to codify women's rights to their body into law. He's supported, I'm a big outdoors enthusiast. He's advocated for protections to our environment and our national parks. He's a moderate. I voted for him.
Yes, we don't just vote alongside party lines. When you hear Democrats saying now, in this election, vote blue down the line, it's because every single Republican, seemingly in the majority of these races, would identify as MAGA and support the actions of Trump. And that's why we say the Democrat who doesn't, unless your name is fucking Fetterman, would be better than a Republican.
That's fair. I respect that. Yeah, I voted for Trump. Regret it a little bit, I'll be honest.
How about you? The same question, Seth.
I voted for Trump this election. I thought it was going to be good. I really did. Just seeing what's going on now, it's like I need to look at things a little more before casting my next vote.
Yeah.
It's just
Was
not.
Was this your first election that you voted in?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's really important, I think, that we understand specifically. You said we thought about it. So what was it?
Family. Pretty much. It was just
What do you mean
we
family?
come
Like,
from an all-red family.
Gotcha. So generationally,
Yeah.
you voted Republican.
Yeah.
Were you informed at all about who Trump was?
I mean, I knew a little bit about him. When Trump was first in office, my dad's business did a little better. So like he talked highly of Trump just because of that. I'm guessing that's all he kind of saw Trump about, like, because he made more money at that time period. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess he's a good guy. But I didn't look anything into him. I was just, I'll vote red. My dad said he's good. I guess he's good.
So if you told your dad that you didn't like the things that Donald Trump is, what he's done, his lies, his corruption, his fraud, his connections to the Epstein files, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and you told your dad that, what would his reaction be?
I would hope it'd be bad. I don't really talk to my father that much, but anymore. But I'd hope it'll be bad.
Well, maybe that should tell you a lot, shouldn't it? Right there. I'm sorry you don't talk to your dad anymore. I understand, but you're your own man, right? You don't need to follow that script anymore, do you?
Nah.
So could we get you to vote for a Democrat?
I want to start doing more research. If the next election, Democratic Party ends up being better policies, I will probably end up voting Democrat.
It's not a question of whether the reality is that Democratic policies are significantly better. That's objective. Both Hector and I are very objective, and that's just objective.
I couldn't give you a definitive answer because I don't know enough information. If I did, I'd pretty much be lying to you. I don't know the.
That's fair.
If I just said yeah, I'm gonna go vote Democratic without knowing the true differences on all the different policies, I'd be lying to you. I feel like that's something that I actually have to take time and research and learn on my own.
Two questions.
Or someone else helping me.
I agree.
What is
Economic history is important. Sorry, Hector.
no, absolutely. You're right.
Yeah, so if we're talking about economic history sets, so for example, I mean, we've got 50 years of data about how the economy does better under Democrats, policies passed to support the middle class, better education outcomes in states that are run by Democrats, better healthcare outcomes. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And you're right. I really encourage everyone to research their candidates, but you have to ask yourself your question beyond just your family. You have to ask yourself what's important to you. Are you of college age?
Yeah, I'm 20.
Okay. How about a party that wants to support forgiving some student loan debt?
I will be honest, I'm not in college. I'm blue collar route.
Not about
But
you. Okay, I get it, but
yeah.
not just you, but friends of yours
Oh
that want
yeah,
to go.
I have friends that are in very much that. That would be a nice thing, yeah.
That's a pretty good argument to vote for a progressive candidate or on the Democratic side, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But like I'd always need a like just one thing couldn't like, but I do understand what you mean. I do understand where
Okay.
you're
Well,
going.
but one thing convinced you to vote for Trump. That was your family's history, right?
Yeah.
So if we flip the script and say, okay, this one thing to make up for the vote, I'm going to vote for my friends so that they can get a break on their student loan debt. That's pretty compelling, don't you think?
Yeah, that is a compelling argument, but when you also say you would like need more than just one thing, I guess, because like they could have one thing that's good. Like again, I can't tell you what they have. I'd be lying to you. I feel like majority of people that are first time voters, they don't actually look at anything. They just kind of go based on what their family is, their family history. Um,
Partly true. It's partly
um,
true.
especially at my age. Like when we all had our first election that we were all able to vote, like we all knew who we voted for just based on like our family. Like it was like, oh yeah, Republican because of my parents. Oh yeah, Democrat because of my parents. It's like I don't really think anyone my age anymore actually even looks at things. It's just kind of, oh, parents do this, I'll do that.
Okay. Is there anything that Donald Trump is doing currently, if you've been paying attention, that warrants your continued support? Like you
For
can look at the administration and you can say, I like this thing that he did.
for Trump himself, no, not anymore. Him as a person, it just like I thought he was a good guy, and then everything came out, and I was like, ah, shit, yeah, this isn't a good person. This is not someone that I'd want up there.
So you said you said not anymore, which means there was a time where there was something that he did that did support him, but you also said you thought he was a good person, but now he's not. So would you then argue that your position on Trump, what you knew from your family, what led you to go and vote for him, would just be believing that he was a good person?
Um, based on yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Yes, there's no other way around it. Yeah,
Would it
like it's
be
like
person over policies? Would you say that's an accurate assessment of your vote? It was more so for the person versus the policies, which you may have
yes,
been
but
unfamiliar with.
yes, but now that I'm getting older and I'm starting to see things more, I'm starting to realize working and all that policies are a lot better than person sometimes.
No, well, they go hand in hand, actually. There's often an argument made that, oh, well, he may be a bad person, but he has good policies. I would say no, that's false. But also, we can expect good people, things they say, the things they do, the things they apologize for, the things that they try to correct will determine how they act in that administration, will determine the people that they appoint. So we were screaming from the rooftops for years, and I'm not saying this to dig at you, I'm just saying in general, that Donald Trump's character alone should have made people realize that he would not have been a good president. Better yet, any good that could come out of his administration is because you appoint a bunch of people and one of them are bound to do something right, versus it actually being directly because of the man. But I guess you already said that you don't think he's a good person, in which case I'm not going to sit here and go back and forth with you on that. Whatever reasons you have for saying that probably align with mine. What I would then now advocate for you to do is to actually flesh out what the differences are between the parties, because that's essentially what we're voting for, and it could correlate with ideology. And then That's really where you should start. You should find out where you lean. You should find out what you care about.
God bless
and
you.
which one of those ideologies, which one of those parties will represent that. Which party has your vote to actually reflect you in Congress, in the Senate, and in all the branches of government. Steve, if you didn't have something, I had another question I want to ask really quickly. Thank you so much, Jezebel, for the roses. I appreciate you. Could you and again, if you don't know, if you can't give specifics, that's fine, but I'm just want to pick at your brain here. Can you tell me something, can you identify something from the right? Like, tell me a policy or position or platform from the right, and then give me a policy, position, or platform from the left. I'm curious to see what you say.
Like if I support or don't?
Not about support. Just tell me basically what your understanding is of both sides.
I mean, I'm guessing Steve is fact still.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, he just told me one that I just learned about for students and all that for college, like aid. But also the big thing on
Thank you guys for the follows. So
that just scared the hell out of me. Sorry.
it's loud. I can't turn it down. Sorry.
You're right. And then, go ahead.
I don't want you to tell us what we've told you. I'm trying to figure out what your
something I've known prior,
is, or if you have an understanding of the different positions.
Oh no, I'm dead in the water.
Okay. So, with that being said, you have a lot of work to do.
I don't disagree.
You got a lot of work to do, and I'll tell you what, it's equally detrimental but equally positive. I think social media is a great way to kind of narrow that down. It's a great way to listen in and be educated by people who are trustworthy and more informed, and can kind of set you on a pathway without you having to read the 100, 200 year history of the parties, right? So I would strongly suggest that you listen in to some of these conversations when you have free time to be able to even double check, fact check some of the things that are being said and see what's what. I would say, as a young person, personally, I can't think of any reason why any young person today would not vote Democrat. And I say that because we can look at the rising cost of things, and we want to keep those prices down. Democrats often run on, even if we can't bring the prices down, if we can't fix the economy, we have more safety nets for you to catch you during those fallen times. I think Democrats typically vote or have leanings more towards humanitarian issues. I think Democrats are objectively better and advocate for more jobs. So if you're looking for a good paying job, if you want workers' protections in that job, if you want good health care in those jobs, or from the public sector, Democrats are going to be advocating for the policies to keep those costs down and give you the coverage that you need. Democrats look at the rich and the top 1%, and they say you need to do more because there's too many of us down here that are not benefiting from what you are. And now you're utilizing your power to make congressmen, women, or whatever vote against what overwhelmingly benefits the majority of Americans, which would include you. I'm assuming you do not make millions of dollars.
No, I wish.
So that off the bat right there, if that shit made sense to you, congratulations. You're a leftist. And you don't have to be a far left or communist or anything, but you're on the left.
Could I ask you guys 2 questions, you and Steve?
Sure, please.
And then, we got to get
super
here, but yes,
super quick. Number 1, when it comes to like Democratic Party, do you always agree with every single policy?
Absolutely the fuck not.
Okay, so like there, like between parties, there may be policies that like you agree with Republican, and then also agree with Democrat. Just I guess you go based on what you agree more with at the time.
I don't generally agree with Republican policies, at least the modern day Republican Party, because I'm a progressive and conservatism is in direct opposition to my political beliefs. I think the original sentiment from Republican parties about smaller government, I would agree with, but that's not Republican value anymore.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, slightly.
Okay.
And then you're about to say something.
I was gonna say my big one is. I can see sectors where deregulation can be super important. I think there is a limit to where sometimes the amount of regulations that we put on certain items in certain sectors could more so benefit corporations or benefit people with certain interests versus the average American, I think we can review some of those regulations and cut the ones that just make our shit more expensive. But that's in no way, shape, or form, I think, in regards to food and water and stuff. I think we need to regulate that to help. But that's where I can agree with a lot of Republicans who say, hey, this regulation, I get the premise of it, but this is ultimately more burdensome. And then I can say, hey, fuck it, let's cut it. So that's where I would say I would agree with Republicans, but kind of like what Facts said, everything I stand for is the complete opposite of conservatism. So we can find common ground, but I don't think I lean conservative in any way.
Okay. And then number 2, do you guys ever get worried, like, when you cast your vote? Because, I mean, like, we gotta be honest, politicians, they do lie about things. Do you ever get worried that they might, like, they kind of put it on and act the entire time and don't end up being who they said they were going to do, or say who they were, or do what they said they were going to do? Does that ever, like, make you nervous at all?
Well, I think campaign promises are different than full-blown lies, because campaign promises are something you run on policy, right? It takes cooperation in government. It takes a variety of people in government to help push policies. You vote for the things that you believe. Do I worry about it? No, it's part of the system. What I worry about is blatant dishonesty. And in my life, I'm 58. I'm a little bit older than you, Seth. I've got kids your age. I've seen that. So what people tend to do is say all politicians lie, and that's just not true. It's just not true. I want to go back real quick. I look at the Democratic Party, I say this a lot, as public transportation. They're going to get me 3/4 of the way to where I want to go. I'm willing to walk the rest of the way.
Okay. And you said you have kids my age. When they voted, do you think they voted based off of, like, how you voted, or just kind of did they do their own research? I'm
Well,
just curious on that.
it's a fair question. So I have 2 boys, 24 and 22, and my daughter just turned 18. So she hasn't yet voted she just voted in her first federal election last year. I've always engaged my kids in politics. I just remind them of the things that matter, not that matter necessarily to me, but I ask them questions about affordable housing and healthcare. And my boys defend their sister's rights to her body. My daughter's a 2-time cancer survivor, so I have a different perspective on it about healthcare and why healthcare, affordable healthcare, is incredibly important. Have they been influenced by me? Absolutely, no doubt about it. But they're also just kind and good people, and they understand that voting for other people aside from themselves is really important.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
but
to answer your question from my perspective, in the primaries, which I'll do a quick breakdown of this just in case you don't know, every single election cycle we have a primary. So each party has people we can pick from a wide pool of people to go to the general election in November. So in the primaries, I would say no. I always typically will vote for the person that I think is best aligned with my values and is going to do the right thing. And sometimes that person loses the primaries and instead we get some other guy. And then come the general election, yes, that does concern me. Like this specific midterms election, I think basically what I've been telling everyone to do is to vote for a Democrat. And some of these Democrats aren't progressive. Some of these Democrats are the establishment. Some of these Democrats are basically right wing in everything else but party affiliation only. But I still think those Democrats are, for the most part, better than someone who identify as MAGA. This is a person who upholds Donald Trump's bigotry. This is a person who will support every single crazy thing he introduces into Congress, even going as far as to trying to amend the Constitution. So I do think sometimes that I could tell someone to vote for someone because they're Democrat and they're better than a MAGA, but then that person ultimately may know that they have a safe vote and know they have a safe bet and manipulate it. However, that's a great thing about voting is that we can also vote them the fuck out. We can even go as far as to impeaching them. So ultimately, the people are still going to be in control to some degree of the folks that we vote on, whether they fail us or go back on some of their promises. So overall, I would just say basically no. Like someone could lie, someone could hold back things, and we can find that out later, but then we can also get them the hell up out of there. So
okay. And so MAGA and Republican, they're different things then, or are they the?
I say yes often. I mean, don't get me wrong; those lines blur daily. but I do think they are different. But ultimately, they're both right wing, and I'm just not right in any way.
I think MAGA has commandeered the Republican Party because they all walk in lockstep. So I think they're the same these days.
Valid. That's valid.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I understand that. I get that. I appreciate it. I gotta start doing my own research, and
Yeah.
because things aren't going the way I kind of expected them to go the way.
I would encourage you to follow Hector and to join his lives. And he has a co-host, Erica Shante, and talk about things that are important. And sure, I encourage everybody to make up their own mind. But this is my plea to you: you voted for Trump because you were influenced by you voted for Trump because you were influenced by your dad, which I get, the generational thing, your family. So to counter that vote for your friends who are going to college, who are going to be hammered with student loan debt. That's the counter to your vote.
Yeah. No, I got you. I already follow Hector. I debated him before. It was about what do you call? Sorry, give me 1 second.
No.
Nope, I'm good. It was about the deportations and all that. That was a while back, very long time ago.
Oh, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't. You probably debate 100 people a day, so I wouldn't expect you to remember.
Yeah, but anyway,
yeah, cool.
I appreciate. Shut up, Momo. You messy. I appreciate you coming up. I appreciate your civility in the conversation, but I think Amaris actually brought up a good point. More research is important, always, sure, yes, but ultimately, that research is going to only do so much. I think you need to just find where you lean, find what you care about, then do the research to see what's the best way to achieve what you want for yourself or others. But yeah,
take the political compass test. Take the political compass test. Start there.
Yes, thank you.
I'll do that.
Politicalcompass.org. Politicalcompass.org. It's going to ask you a series of questions. I would say it shouldn't take you longer than 20-30 minutes to get through the entire thing, and that's going to tell you where you lean. If you have issues reading it, there are YouTube videos that break it down, or better yet, you can come back with your results, take a screenshot of it, and we can help you out there. But yeah, take that first and move on from there. But I appreciate you coming up.
Cool. You have a good one.
You as well.
Thanks, Seth. You will.
Hi, Lainey. CJ, so sorry about the delay, man. You a voter, non-voter?
I am a voter.
Okay, what do you got?
Okay. First of all, I just want to say you're proud. Everything's political wiring too. I'm going to answer that in just a second, but first I want to thank you for your breakdown of Jesus Christ. And in fact, thank you. To answer your question, like when I voted for Kamala, and she was, in my opinion, she was the superior candidate, policy-wise and everything. And I literally had to detox. I literally had to step back from being political because I feel so burnt out. Like, you can give these people like facts and paper, just show it to them on paper as to what it is, and they don't get it. Even the young man that you guys were just talking to, he said that he needed to do more research, and I literally had to hold back because I'm like, you're currently living right now in 2026. You see this, you're experiencing these high prices, you're experiencing so many various different things, and you're saying that you need to do more research as if your current life and living situation is not proof enough. And I guess my question is for you guys, for both you, Hector, and for Facts. Like, Hector, I follow you. I've been following you now for probably about a year. I follow Erica, and you guys, Seth, Facts. I mean, you guys, how is it that you find that spark to continue to move on? Because when I'm giving facts, when I'm showing people things, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm voting for Trump because I like his policies," and he's a Christian. He's not a Christian. His policies are failing. Why are you still supporting him? And in spite of everything that's happening, it's like, okay, voting Democrat, and it's like every little thing, like we're losing. Like they're gerrymandering everything. And I know this is like a word salad right now, but where do you find that spark to continue to educate and move on from there? Because guys, I'm burnt out. I'm completely burnt out right now.
So I'll say for me, and I'll say honestly, especially this week, it's barely. Some weeks are harder than others, but ultimately for me, I think one of the things that make me able to get up and do this on a daily basis, outside of the fact that it's quite literally it's my fucking job, is the reason why I went to get into this is because I try to create this platform and what I do here around the platform that I wished I had when I was breaking away from MAGA. That's basically the premise of it. I wish someone like me, they did exist, but I just didn't find them. But I wish I found a Hector Talks platform or a Facts Still Matter platform or an Erica Shante platform or a Laney platform when I was MAGA. I wish there was a place that I could request up and I could have had a civil conversation so long as I wasn't being a fucking bigot. Laney, we talked about that earlier. We actually talked about that in the letter just earlier. But I wish that there was something like this, what we do, available for me when I was there. I wish there was someone who would have had, in some cases, the patience, the time, and everything to like have the discussions with people who legit just don't know any better. Because I was basically, because my folks are not political, but they are conservative, like ideological, but they're not political. They don't vote. So then naturally that's what I became, and I thought it made sense. And then I made the alignment with the Republican Party before realizing that was a fucking wrong. And then I broke away. I found myself, and now I'm here. So the goal of my platform, despite the fact that my audience of people at that young age is very small, it's mostly older people, but my goal is to reach to those people, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, to have the conversations that you may not have found anywhere else, to give you a perspective that you may not have found everywhere else. Because sometimes all it takes is the right person to say certain things in a certain way, and then next thing you know, you get it. It clicks for you. So there's that. I ultimately do this because I want there to be more spaces where people can learn. And whether it's in a debate style, because I do enjoy the contention, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I like being messy. Or if it's just teaching someone something that they did not know, that's the reason why I continue to do this. And ultimately, the world's fucked. And if I just want to be able to tell my niece, I want to be able to tell my nephew that I played a role in trying to fix it, whether I was successful or not. Facts, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, CJ. I started on TikTok because I used to do stand-up comedy as a hobby. I still do it. I just haven't done it in a while. And I thought, wow, this is a really cool platform. It might be a spot that I can test out some jokes. And then I used to work in politics, and I've been involved in politics my life. And I was watching a lot of my life, and I was watching a live one time, and I'm like, man, all this misinformation, don't facts still matter anymore? I'm thinking, oh, I might be able to find a spot. To be honest, that's how it started.
Roll credits.
Yeah, exactly. And then my motivation, I've got 3 kids. That's my motivation.
Okay.
That's one hell of a
Guys,
moment.
yeah, I mean, that is, especially because I don't have any kids, but definitely, yeah, like Hector, I appreciate you. I really do. Like, I listen to you and Erica, like, faithfully. Like, you guys definitely do give me, like, inspiration to keep on, but I do feel so burnt out, especially when I'm, like I said, but like we're living this. I literally just filled up my gas tank, where it was costing me $40 to fill my tank. I just paid $75 to fill up the tank. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what's going on here? Like, and constantly at the job, people that I'm running into, like I'm riding down the street, and I'm still seeing people with flags talking about they support Trump, and I'm like, what's the Twilight Zone? Like, it blows my mind. It truly does, and I don't know. I guess I'll find that spark to continue to just not to say that because I do, like, when people come to me, they ask me questions, like, I definitely do give them the facts and what I do know.
Mhm.
What I don't know, I will research it. I will find it, and then if it's wrong, I will come back and be like, hey, this is wrong. Blah, 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 blah. It's just, I feel burnt out. I really do. I feel like this, like you said, Hector, this world is fucked, this country. Like, we have a president that literally calls names, like, call people stupid. Oh, you're, remedial. People that call people out of their name, and I'm like, if Obama did half of this, if Joe did half of this, what are we doing here? Like,
If they did half the stuff this president did, those assassination attempts would have been completed successfully. There would have been no missing. There would have been no flukes. I firmly believe that. If especially Obama did a fucking quarter, 10% of what Donald Trump did, his assassination attempts would have been successful. I firmly believe that.
Exactly. And they're mad at him for wearing a tan suit. A tan suit.
Yeah.
And as far as the attempted assassinations and all that, I keep looking at them, especially this most recent one. I don't believe that. I believe it was staged. Every time
Try to watch. Yeah, we gotta watch.
Right.
We gotta watch how we talk about that.
So I feel like there are things that are distracting. Okay, well let me release. There are UFOs and aliens. Okay, I don't care about. Okay, they're out there. Oh well. But, bro, every time I turn around, it's always okay. But don't look at this. Look over here. And I'm talking to people. I'm like, y'all see this? This is a con artist in his bag. Like this is what he does. He's conning you. Like,
I think.
thank you. I appreciate the motivation. Someone just said, "Keep going, don't give up." You know, thank you. Whoever
Yes.
just thought
I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much for coming up.
Appreciate that.
Thank you guys.
I think for me, for one, I don't want everyone. In fact, I think that's a mistake. People who listen into these lives and stuff and think that they can become like political, I won't say advocates, but like, what am I trying to say here?
Influencers or whatever.
Yeah, thank you. Like, yeah, hey, I get it. You like to listen to the lives. You're learning for yourself and stuff. That doesn't mean you're always supposed to be the person who can be the person to go out and talk to crowds or anyone, even on the individual level. Like sometimes you're just learning for yourself. You're just trying to develop yourself. So please don't ever get lost in that. When you listen to regular, I mean, I like the idea of like myself, regular person who just literally sat down 1 month in April, May of 2024 and said, you know what, I'm going to vote. I have some catching up to do. And that's what I did. I had a ton of time. I made a bunch of time. I read. I did this, I did that. And I got enough to go, okay, this guy's fucking nuts. Kamala Harris is the way to go. When she stepped up, and it wasn't even my decision to vote for her that made me start doing this. It was literally listening into political lives and hearing the gross amount of misinformation spread about her. That's what got me. That's really what got me. It was joining a live and listening to someone say, the second she got up on the rolls, and then someone got up on a panel and said she slept her way to the top. The only reason she has her positions is because she was sleeping her way into it with Willie Brown. And I'm like, oh, really? Because I didn't know any better, right? So I look it up. I'm like, Willie Brown, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh. Willie Brown was just an affiliate of hers, and yes, they dated for some time, but yeah, this is what this is what killed me, guys. This is what killed me. I'll never forget this. When I'm looking up the claims and you see the photos of her with Willie Brown at certain events, networking and stuff, I was like, her relationship with Willie Brown is irrelevant. She was in the right rooms talking to the right people. Anyone who knows anything about networking knows that you just get to speaking to people, you get to making deals, you build relationships, and that can take you places. She got in the public eye. She got more favor from the individuals who then went on to vote for her and endorse her. Her relationship with Willie Brown is irrelevant. Willie Brown couldn't give her anything. That's why Willie Brown could not give her those things. And how in the world do you sleep your way into 5 elected positions? How does that work? So that was the first thing. I'm going to do 2 more and shut up. The second thing, no, technically in the first thing, and it was the fact that she was a whore because Willie Brown was married. Then I look and find out that he was separated from his wife for about a decade. So I'm like, okay, so why did you lie? Why did y'all lie on her? Fast forward to the second thing. The second thing was Jamal Truelove. I'll never forget that name. Jamal Truelove. Kamala Harris locked up Jamal Truelove for a crime that he didn't commit. So I'm like, damn, that's actually pretty damning. So then I look it up and I see, no, she didn't. It was her office because she was the fucking, whatchamacallit? District attorney. District attorney. It was her office. She was the district attorney. But then the district attorney doesn't prosecute every single case. They have to be present for them. But they have other individual prosecutors, the main one being Linda Allen. Linda Allen was the individual who prosecuted Jamal Truelove. And Linda Allen was the one who didn't take into consideration the fact that the woman who lied on Jamal Truelove and said she saw him there after he unalived that woman was basically incentivized by the state and the officers specifically involved in the scenario with about $60,000 of housing assistance to go and lie on his name. That was Linda Allen's bad, not Kamala Harris. So I was like, oh, interesting. Very interesting. And then that tied into the overall, she just liked to lock up black men specifically. So then I look that part up and I see, oh, well, she didn't lock up black men specifically. It's just that maybe some black and brown men were the ones predominantly with these charges. So that was a lie. And then there was the one that Tulsi Gabbard told on the 2020 debate stage. 2,000 black men and women locked up for this charge. I look into it and I'm like, no. It was only 45 that did state time, a state prison. Not to mention, no one talks about the Back on Track program. The program that she started because she understood the abuse and the unnecessary aggressive charges of individuals who have a little bit of the bud on them. So then she gave you an opportunity to rehabilitate yourself. Not housing assistance, job training, and credits and this and that. And if you completed the program successfully, guess what? That thing never touched your record. She did that. She couldn't change California law. God bless you. Thank you guys for the gifts. She couldn't change California law that says if you have this much, you get this charge. She couldn't change that. She can only offer a way out for the ones who didn't have a violent crime. And that was progressive for her time. And that's when I realized you guys are full of shit. And that's when I realized if you guys hate her this much and you're so wrong, that there's clearly something else at play there. And that's when I started joining panels because I had to consistently tell people that they're dead fucking wrong. And now I'm here. My first topic was ask me questions about Kamala Harris. I had no fucking intention of debating Trump supporters like this. Fucking none. Anyway, I'm rambling. That's how I ended up doing this.
I need to drop, my friend. I appreciate this. This is these are the conversations that we're always desperate for, just reminding folks of what's at stake. And I will leave people with this. You're never, the purity test that the left has been focused on for too long has to go bye-bye. We have to listen to black women. We have to remind ourselves what's at stake. The 92% that show up every election to defend the rights of the most redneck Appalachian man, that person can have health care. Those of us on the left have to focus on harm reduction. Lobby hard, fight hard for the primary season for progressive candidates, volunteer, make phone calls, whatever's necessary. But when the time comes, there is clearly one choice because both sides are not the same. Don't give me the whole two wings of the same bird or two sides of the same coin. Our lives literally are depending on it. Thank you, my brother. It's always, thank you, amazing chat. I appreciate you for having me, bro. Appreciate
6,000%. Thank you so much for coming by. I wish we didn't have to wait so long for the chats, but it ended very well. Guys, please make sure that you're following Facts Don't Matter. Follow him. Tomorrow's Thursday. You're live. You'll be live tomorrow, will you? Or you're too busy flying and stuff?
No, I'll be live tomorrow, then flying to California tomorrow night.
Perfect. Okay, so make sure you're following him. Those of you on the YouTube side, I have his YouTube pinned. Again, he's not streaming to there right now, but in his link tree, in that bio, you can find him on TikTok. Those of you who have both apps. So make sure you're following him, please, and check out his links in the bio to support his Do Something tour. He's literally going across the country, starting in California tomorrow night, to talk to people who feel left out or apathetic, and that is super duper important. The conversation we've had here today, he's going to take that door to door. And that shit costs fucking money, so please make sure we're taking care of him. Anyways, love you, man. Thank you so much for coming up.
Love you too, bro. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Did I tell y'all how much I love Steve? Steve's one of my favorite white men. Steve is one of my favorite white men. We love Steve. Thank you, Kelsey. I appreciate that. But yeah, that's literally how I started getting up on panels. It was one day where I was sitting in a live and someone came up talking mad shit about Kamala Harris, and it got mine too. Excuse me. And it got so bad because please understand something. Y'all see me talking and doing this. I was a shy fucker. Me public speaking and shit. I never ever thought in my life that I would be at the Capitol building here in, well, not here, I'm in Dallas now, but in Austin, Texas, where I moved from, speaking to hundreds of people. I never fucking thought that I would go and stand alongside Parker and goddamn Dean on a college campus speaking to hundreds of fucking people there. I never thought I would have platforms with hundreds of thousands of views every month. Man, if you told me this shit 2.5 years ago, I would have told you you lost your fucking mind. But here I am. I felt that there was a need. I felt that there needs to be more younger people like myself in this space, even though I'm aspirationally 47, to talk about this stuff, and here I am. So There's that. And I think we need more. And not just more, because we have everybody and their mama trying to get into political commentary. I don't think we have too many honest people doing it with real goals. And don't get me wrong, like I have my little gift goals up here and I have my links in the bio because this shit costs money to fucking do. But I legitimately do this because I think this country is sick, and I think we need to start healing the sickness from the roots. We keep treating the goddamn symptoms. We're not addressing the disease. We keep putting band-aids and patches on something just to revisit it in another election cycle, and Republicans use it against us. It doesn't serve us in any way, shape, or form. We need bigger, we need better. And I think one thing that the Trump administration is doing good is making people realize that enough is enough. So there's that. It's fascinating because you're so natural. Well, it took practice. It took a lot of practice. I guess I've always been well-spoken, but then I would trip my ass off speaking in public. I still do. You guys hear me stutter and shit. I'm still not the best at it. Well, you know, I do my best. Anyways, I'm going to make this final call. Final call, if you are a non-voter, if you had any questions, if you'd like to discuss all the reasons why you're not voting and engage in civil discourse on the ways that you could or should, and the reasons why, you may request up in the box. You are the demographic of people I would like to have a conversation with. And if you're over on the tube side, you can call the number on screen, 737-295-5321. We will give it a couple minutes. And if I'm not mistaken, Erica is live. So we'll just go ahead and raid her if we don't get anybody. But you're authentic. If that outweighs any missteps, I try. Erica will tell you. We actually talked about this today before the Fun and Fact show. I do not like being wrong. And when I say I don't like being wrong, I mean not in like it hurts my ego or anything, but especially now, any video that I put out now could be seen by hundreds, if not thousands of people. My last viral video in the last month is over 360,000 views. It is one of my biggest fears for, let's say, 360,000 people to watch something where I said something wrong. That's one of my biggest fucking fears, because I am very much anti-misinformation and disinformation. Obviously, I don't intentionally lie to y'all, but sometimes I can get things wrong. There was 2 weeks ago specifically, I will never forget this shit, where I was debating a guy and we were talking about corporate tax rates. And I mixed up the golden era, the golden age, between, I believe it was end of the 1940s, early 1950s to 1970s. And I mixed up the time period. I was talking about one of the higher corporate tax rates, and I said that it was in the 1920s and the 1930s. And the Trump supporter caught me on it. It's like, what? You mean like during the Great Depression? Like, what do you mean? I was like, wait, no, I got that shit wrong. And then I also mixed up the individual tax rate, which could have maybe went up to 90%, versus the corporate tax rate, which, if I'm not mistaken, never really touched 60%. Like 50, 60% was more so the highest. So after the live, when I was watching it back, when I was looking for clips to edit, I heard myself say that, and I deleted the whole live. I deleted the whole fucking live, bro. You can't find that live on YouTube. Not out of necessarily shame or anything, but just because I hate that. I hate the idea of me like saying something wrong to people, and then they're gonna go around and cite it, and then motherfuckers go, "That's dead wrong. Where'd you hear that from?" "Oh, I heard it from Hector Talks." I fucking hate that shit. Absolutely not. I delete the whole fucking live. Like, no. I'm saying all that to say I do my best to give you guys accurate information. I do my best to tell the truth, and I do not play around with misinformation because you guys know the saying. The wrong thing can get out to millions of people. The correction, only 10,000 will see. So I'll do my best to double check a lot of shit. Because misinformation is the reason why I was MAGA. Misinformation is the reason why I lean conservative. So I would hate to be the person that says something that gets people fucked up. Hi, Miss Donna.
Hey, my Hector, how are you, honey?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. I've been listening the whole live, but I was also multitasking, and I just got home to where I was able to request up. But I wanted to answer your question when I was telling you about the Powell memo.
Oh, yes.
Because that's when capitalism got its wings and flew away. You know what I'm saying? That's when capitalism really, really, really gained a tremendous amount of memento as it did because of the Powell memo.
I see.
And I learned that from Ashley, the young lady Ashley on TikTok.
Ashley the Baroness?
She does a whole she
Brilliant.
does a whole
She's
video on it, and it blew me. Because since I got started on this almost a little over a year ago, as far as becoming more political, because I've come up before, Hector, and told you that I was a non-voter until I was 49. I never voted until I was 49. And that was for Obama. And that was because I was getting threatened by family that if I didn't vote. But, I really didn't even know then when I voted for Obama what I was voting for. It was just, I had a lot of family pressure on me. Like, you ain't voted all this time, Donna, you need to vote. And it wasn't until I was kind of politically informed, but not really, Hector, until Trump. And I didn't really realize the damage that he was doing as it was going along, because life was life, and my mother was sick and dying, and then I had to take control over my parents' whole livelihood and take care of my dad. So I didn't really get politically knowledgeable until last year when Trump went. When I did vote for Kamala, but really understanding and even being able to tell you the Powell memo, I didn't know anything like that until last year when Trump won, and it was like I really need to learn what's going on.
And that's okay. When we have these conversations and we're talking to people who may feel some shame or embarrassment for not knowing certain things or not voting in certain elections, that doesn't do us any good. The point is what are we doing about it now? Now is your time to get involved. Now is your time to change course. So it's perfectly fine if you didn't know this until this point. Everything I know about politics, no, that's a lie. I won't say everything. Because basically I started getting more involved in content, political content from creators, not the good ones, in 2019. 2019 where I started watching conservative commentators and going down that whole almost red pill pipeline. And then fast forward to 2021, 2022-ish, I was like, this shit is stupid. Well, Republicans are fucking stupid, but I still stayed out. And then fast forward to 2024, I decided to really reevaluate things. So I would say really and truly my political knowledge or wherewithal or involvement really started in 2024. Because even when I was quote unquote MAGA, I never voted. I just talked about the guy and I never voted in the 2020 election. So.
I mean, like I told you, I was 49. And I think, I'm just saying, if anybody is out there that's been listening to your live today, if you're embarrassed, don't be embarrassed, because when you put yourself in a position to come up on a panel, you'd be surprised how much more you learn or people are willing to give you information or give you their contact information so that you can help. And you just have to be consistent and persistent of learn. And the thing about it is, Hector, when I first started learning, I didn't just stick to what I agreed with. I also went on the opposite side to just hear and fact check them so that I would really seriously know the difference in who is telling me the truth and who is not.
Very much so.
I think a lot of people don't do that.
I agree with that. People always say, and you see it oftentimes in the debate spaces, someone pulls up something from Fox News and the debater on our side laughs. Oh, Fox News, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. Don't invalidate it just because it's Fox News. You have a good reason to, but I've went to Fox News for information, whether to find out if it was true or false. Sometimes Fox News will report on things that other networks don't. That doesn't make it credible, But I think it's more important to rate the merits of what's the material that's inside of the article, that's inside the source, versus just saying it's from this person, it's bad. If you do it enough times, I can get why that can be tiring. But yeah, kind of like you said, I think that we do need to feel less shame in asking questions. We do need to feel less shame in just having conversations. I'd even take it a step further and say I don't think the algorithm helps with that, because spaces like mine, I take that back. Topics like this, the topics that aren't the back and forths, the topics that aren't the debates, the contention, look what happens. So, and that's also the algorithm as well. They feed off of that shit. They really fucking do. I, for one, have been getting suppressed to hell for goddamn weeks now, and it is what it is. But it's also a play on what these algorithms want to happen, what they want you to see. Because if there was more spaces like this, I think we can actually have much better chances of changing minds and hearts versus every single time someone tunes into political conversation, we're telling someone that their idiot brain is getting fucked by stupid. And I like telling Trump supporters that their idiot brain is getting fucked by stupid. But that doesn't get everybody. So.
You're that was so accurate. I couldn't have said it better, Hector. But you know, it's like people don't realize, if you really want to understand, it's not going to just magically appear in your brain or in front of your face. You have to look for it.
Gotta look for it. Exactly.
You got to look for it. But, you know, I just wanted to let people know, keep hope alive, because there's a whole bunch of us out there that waited until I was past my midlife crisis to even vote the first time. But it's never too late. It's never too late to vote. It's never too late to get informed.
And try to find the people who are willing to teach you the things that you need to know. They're willing to do it from a place of genuine consideration and education versus malicious motives. And go from there.
I agree 100%. Well, you know how Miss Donna feels about you, Hector. I love you to pieces, honey.
Thank you, Miss Donna. I love you too. Thank you so much for coming up.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Always Miss Donna. We love Miss Donna here. Someone said, I feel politically terrorized. I don't know what that means, Patty. I feel politically terrorized. I don't know what it means to feel politically terrorized. That's interesting. Anyways, we are going to wrap it up here. We're going to wrap it up here. YouTube, I set the stream to take you to Ari. You guys know Mermaid Ari. She's currently co-hosting a live with Just Monica, who also has a YouTube. All that information will be available in their link trees or their bios once you get there, so make sure you stick around. But we're going to send you over there. Greatly appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much, mods, for watching the platform. You guys do need to chill out on some of the mutes, though. I was reading some of the messages y'all were deleting, and y'all are doing too much. I only give a shit about bullying, spamming, and like isms. That's all I care about. Like if someone says thumbs down Obama, I don't want that muted unless they're spamming it or they're just not coming up at some point. But this live specifically, I saw a few Trump supporters come through the chat, but not really non-voters so much. So we'll have to try it again at a later date. But yeah, all right, I'm going to wrap it up here for the YouTuber people. Shout out to some of the hardest working mods. Thank you for your likes, your shares, your comments, your subscriptions, all that good stuff. And I will see y'all in Ari's live in a moment. So make sure when you go there, say Ari.